Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. It's always a pleasure to have you here as we will get into the mystery of Gobeckli Tepe and so much more with Dr. Aaron Judkins tonight. Yeah, we're going to have a great show. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm excited to learn tonight. I've always heard about Gobeckli Tepe. We've never really touched about it on this show, but I'm pumped up for this one tonight. I hope you are too, as we say hello to each and every one of you, including race fan in the gold medal position, SJ with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a bronze medal. Hi, Luscious Jules, Soccer Satan, and Bar Madison. How you doing? As we continue on with our roll call, Keith McCormick is here. Keith McCormick will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Little Timmy James, how you doing in studio here? Excellent. Good to have you here. Frankie B, nice to see you. Rose Demaray, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you can never go into a Gobeckli Tepe without being properly lubed, and that's what he is doing for us tonight, and we are excited about it. Moving on, Gory Tiger, Lee the Bee, thanks for joining us tonight. As we continue on with our roll call, Paul Demon, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, and Eternity Eternal. Thank you all for joining us here. Hi there, D. Cypher, Cosmic Joe, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, just another guy named Harry, and then Hillbilly Herb. How you doing, Hillbilly Herb? What's happening? All right, scrolling on down, we got Robert, probably known in America as Robert. But if he's French-Canadian, it's Robert. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Number 29 in your program, starting at center ice from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson, how you doing, buddy? Thomas Rock, good to have you here as we continue on with our roll call. Operation Shutdown. Tracy Winters is here. Tracy Winters will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Kurt M., good to see you. Galactic Disclosure Movement, Jay, how you doing? And Pam Harris, Destiny Rocks, thank you all for coming on in. Hi there, Rock and Rory. Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful night tonight. Scrolling on down. I'm Hardcore, well over on X. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining us. And Captain K-Rod, good to see you. Fapperoni, thanks for coming on in. And Search and Destroy, Kimberly Burgess, Destiny Rocks. Algaray over on Twitch. Bench press 525 pounds 47 times to warm up for this show. Body Tech, good morning to you from London. And who is next on our list here? Let's see here. Magneticus Attractus. Good to have you here, my friend. Queen Peachy Keen D, how you doing? Thanks for coming on in. Oh, look at that. She even compliments me. Looking sharp, Dave Scott. Looking sharp. Well, thank you. I dressed myself this morning. Dave Tiger Williams, he'll drop the gloves with you. Hippie Deidre, nice to see you. Noble Patrick and Walter Kochabinski, thanks for coming on in. Marty Burback, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call here, let us next say hello to SJ, even though we already did already right off the bat. And Bobbert, good to see you. Itzy Zaza, thanks for coming on in. Hi there, Sierra. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're getting into the topic of Gobeckli Tepe. Dr. Aaron Judkins is here with us. We're going to get started with him momentarily. We are in roll call on our YouTube side. Xanos, how are you? Thanks for coming on in. And Warden Dragon, good to see you. Ethanol, thank you for joining us. And Corey, good to see you as well. We are caught up. Reminder to all of you that the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and be proud of it. And yeah, I wear it. I look good. So just go shopping. Do me a favor, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our site as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are in for a great show tonight. We're going to look into the mystery of Gobeckli Tepe and other old ancient mysteries of the world. Dr. Aaron Judkins is here to break it all down for us. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick it off with another spooky story. Then little Timmy James in studio will have the UFO report. And I'm sure there'll be some talk of drones, because what would a UFO report be? Really, without any drones. So let's get right to it. Dr. Aaron Judkins is known as the Maverick archaeologist. He is an author and film producer known for the documentary theatrical film Finding Noah. Important projects include excavations at the Pool of Siloam in Jerusalem, the search for Noah's Ark, and the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls Cave 12 in Qumran, Israel. He has also mapped the longest contiguous dinosaur trackway in North America in Glen Rose, Texas, and solved the Los Lunas Mystery Stone in New Mexico. Yeah, he has a new book out. It's about Gobeckli Tepe. We're going to learn all about this mysterious city from the past. Let's bring him on in. Dr. Aaron Judkins, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Dave. It's a great honor to be on your program with you and your listeners tonight.
I got to ask right off the bat, how did you get the nickname the Maverick archaeologist?
Yeah, so I was doing a radio show one time, and someone asked me, how did I become a maverick in archaeology? And that just kind of stuck. And, at the time, I have 2 careers, and I was flying as a flight medic on a 911 helicopter. So we'd go out and do rescue missions. And so the guys just started calling me Maverick. And so that ended up on my flight suit on the back of my flight helmet. And I just became known as a Maverick archaeologist.
That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. What attracted you to archaeology? What led you down this path?
I've always been interested in history since I was young. I wanted to learn about who was here before me. And so I got really interested in just rocks. My grandparents were rock hounds, and they would go out, schedule their vacations, go out rock hunting across, different parts of the states here. And they would come back and they would cut those up. And, an agate's a great example. They cut that agate from the outside. It just looks rough, no color. But when you cut that thing and you polish it, man, it really pops. A lot of coloration in there, just a beautiful stone. And so I got interested in rocks. And from there, that naturally led into arrowheads and things like that. And so I really wanted to learn about who was here before me and what the history of that area was. And so I took a strong interest in history at first, and then that naturally led me into the field of archaeology.
Man, archaeology is, I think, something that we all have an interest in. Most of us on an extremely amateur level. It's much like geology with, I can't tell a rock from a rock, but geologists can tell you how they were formed and everything that goes along with the sediments within that rock. Where I live here, I'd never seen boulders of lava that are like 3, 4, 5 tons and standing 5 feet tall. I'd never seen that before. Didn't know this area was where we broadcast from was literally at one point a giant volcanic lake. And you end up getting interested in history. I think we all have that notion of where do we come from? How did this all begin? What was it like? That mystery to you means what?
Well, the mystery is, just like you said, it's the great questions of life. Who am I? Where did I come from? What is my purpose here? Where am I going? And history can help us answer at least some of that of who we were, where did we come from, et cetera. And so I think that's one of the great adventures of archaeology, because you can hopefully find a clue of the past in the past, uncover it from the dirt that may be hundreds or even thousands of years old. And then that little piece of artifact tells a story. And then I like to take that story and try to put it together and see what it's telling us. Sometimes it can fill in the blanks. It can give us color to the past about who the people were, what they were doing there, and why they were there.
What's it like to discover petrified dinosaur tracks?
That's really neat. Here where I live in Texas, I live near Glen Rose, Texas, and this is the dinosaur capital of Texas. Why? Because we have our river here is called the Paluxy River, and we're famous for the fossilized dinosaur tracks here in the riverbed. Why? Because the bottom of the river is limestone, and so that limestone is just like cement. It's consisted of lime. And so these dinosaurs were walking in this limey mud at one point. And then that limey mud hardened and it fossilized these footprints. So we have at least 3 different types of dinosaurs walking through this area. And a number of years ago, I excavated the longest contiguous trackway here in North America. Now there's one longer that's in Colorado, but it's not contiguous. It's broken into 3 sections. This one here in Glen Rose is contiguous, left, right pattern in a stride. And it's just over 500 feet long. And so it's really interesting. We also allow people, families, to come once a year, sometimes twice a year, to the local area here. And we have a public excavation. So we invite people to come and join us.
While you were answering that, I actually had to look up which dinosaurs lived in British Columbia. It's something I've never really looked at. And, duck-billed dinosaurs, Ankylosaurus, carnivorous Albertosauruses. Now we know where Alberta came from the dinosaurs. They named it before they went extinct, But, they're all over the place. And I think even, the minute you start talking dinosaurs, it brings out that inner child inside of you that really is like you want to put your safari hat on and grab a shovel and start digging those 3-4 inches into the dirt before you actually get bored of it, But I mean, I just couldn't imagine what it would be like just feeling the energy of those dinosaur footprints. I don't know about you. Do you pick up energy? Could you feel around those spots? Or am I being a little bit too romantic with that?
Well, I just get excited generally, so I'm not really sure if I picked up anything, but you're right. You do have this kind of kid-like sensation that comes over you when you discover these things. And what's interesting is we have found some of these. Now, you identified that some of the dinosaurs in your area. Here, specifically in my area, we have a big sauropod dinosaur. It's called Sauropodon jonesi. It's a big sauropod, long neck, long tail, 4 big feet, big round tracks. And then we have Acrocanthosaurus, which means high spine lizard. It's a bipedal creature, very similar looking to a T-Rex. It's got dermal frills that goes down its back all the way down its tail. And then a hadrosaur type of dinosaur, which is also bipedal. But a lot of these tracks that we've excavated have recorded very well, meaning they have recorded some of the padding of the underneath of the foot and the claws. So, wow. And then we see mud uppush around the track, which as they pressed into the mud, it squished up that mud and it, fossilized in that position. We've also discovered small dinosaur baby tracks about the size of my hand. In paleontology, they weren't sure if the young ones stuck around after they, got to the point where they could get out on their own, or if they just left. The thought was that they had just were born and then they just left. But we have little juvenile dinosaur tracks, and they're in the same vicinity as the adults, and they're following the adults. So we see that this is a field of science called iconology. It's a study of fossil trace footprints, and it can tell us a lot of information about how big they were, of course, their size of their footprints, their stride, how fast they were walking, and an estimated height of the creature.
I'm 51 years old, and that's something I've never went and looked for is dinosaur bones. I got to do that. It is on my list. If I were to have a bucket list, that would be on it. It would just be nice to see for once.
We don't have a lot of dinosaur bones. You would think with all the footprints, you would have bones. We have found a few bones in the area. Now, Acrocanthosaurus is rarer than a T-Rex. Only 3 known Acrocanthosaurus has ever been discovered, and one was right here in Glen Rose. Another one was to the state north of us in Oklahoma, and then there was a third one. I think the second one was also found in Oklahoma, but I could be mistaken. But it's rarer than a T-Rex. But most of our excavations for dinosaurs have been at a site that we excavated on a private ranch in northwest Colorado for 25 years. And we excavated some 18 different dinosaurs out of that mountainside. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work too. I've got some stories I could tell you about being out, remote places and just, so it's not all glamour. I have to.
Trust me, in a much different way. I know exactly what you're talking about because I go into the middle of nowhere of the British Columbia forest looking for Sasquatch. And so it's never, there's always something going on, whether it's the mosquitoes bugging you or whether it's Sasquatch chasing you out. Yeah. Go figure. Yeah. I do want to hit you up because we are going to get into Gobeckli Tepe coming up here at the bottom of the hour. But I want to get into a book that you wrote. The first book that you ever wrote was about UFOs. And this is something that you are pretty passionate about in regards to this subject called Alien Agenda, The Return of the Nephilim. I'm just curious how this came along.
It's a weird thing that happened to me when I was 17 years old. I was with three of my high school buddies. It was in the summer of 1988. I was living up in the north part of the state of Texas in the Panhandle, and it was summer break 1988. It was approaching about midnight. We were up in our local area. We had a river that ran through the area, and so we would go up. In this particular time, we went up and set up on the plateau, and it was a full moon night. And in those days, I had a curfew at midnight. Well, it was fast approaching the curfew. There was something that kind of spooked us to kind of get us going because, I wasn't going to make my curfew anyway. But, it was a full moon night. And sometimes you notice that ring around the moon.
Yes.
Well, we saw that. But then as, we're just out there, talking and it's just the four of us. And we noticed something strange around this ring that's formed around the moon. It's a large ring, completely intact, but lines started forming in the ring. And they were straight, and they just, and they got one line away from being a pentagram. I can't make this stuff up. But I noticed that, and I said, guys, that looks like it's one line away from forming a pentagram. And so, I looked at my watch, and I'm thinking, let's get on out of here. This is kind of too creepy. We can't explain it. It wasn't an aircraft or anything that leaves the trails. It was confined in the circle around the moon in that ring. And so everybody agreed, and we quickly got up to leave. Now, we had to walk down the hill, basically down a mountainside to the truck that we had parked down off the highway. And you had to go one at a time. So two of my buddies went first, and then me and a guy named Mark, he was to my left. And I said, okay, buddy, let's go. And I was going to be the last one down. And Mark was looking up and over my shoulder. And I said, Mark, let's go. And he goes, what's that? He pointed up over my shoulder and looked. He said, what's that? I said, I don't know. It's, let's go. And he said, no. He said, Aaron, turn around and look at that. So I turned around, and I saw this red ball of light floating across the sky. It was low on the horizon, but it was fairly close. We should have been able to hear it. It was silent. It was not blinking. It had no blinking lights. Now, you have to know something about my buddy. Mark was, he was a grade ahead of me. So he had just graduated, and he was trying to get into the Air Force Academy to be an Air Force pilot. And so he knew about this. This is what he did. And so he said, Aaron, I don't think that's an aircraft. And I said, well, why? And he said, and he told me, he said, well, it's silent, it's too close. We should hear something. There's no, the red and green lights that are normally associated with aircraft. And so I got my attention. So I'm looking at it, and then we decided, hey, let's get our other buddies back up here that had already went all the way down the mountainside. So we called them back up. Hey guys, come back up the hill. There's something up here you got to see. So we made them come up. We turned around. We walked across the pasture, went to the fence. There was just an old pasture fence there, a cow fence. We walked up to that, and we're watching it as it goes out in front of us. It's real slow. It's low on the horizon, and that thing did some amazing aerial acrobatics that defied the laws of physics, Dave. And I can tell you that there's nothing that will silence 4 teenage kids when you're staring at something that you cannot explain. It was a phenomenal event. And I remember very distinctly reaching down and pinching my arm thinking, am I dreaming here? Am I awake? And I was awake. And my 3 buddies were witnessing this, and it just took off. It did all kinds of crazy stuff. And then it stopped midair, and it just stayed there. And then it did it again. Boom. It just went all kinds of, it just went bizarre. It was not natural. And then it stopped again. And when I'm sitting here looking at this, now it's got all of our attention. We're laser focused on what this thing is. And after several minutes of this, we're staring at it, and it's not really doing anything else. It's in a fixed position. But again, it's a solid ball of red light. And Dave, I get this crazy idea. Let's get in the truck and chase it. So we scurry down that mountainside as fast as we can. I mean, we're not going one at a time. You go first, I'll go, we're all just scrambling down. We're falling, rocks are, I mean, we're racing down that hill to get to the truck. We get out in the truck, we have to do U-turn, get out back across, out from that plateau where it's kind of giving us this blind spot. We have to get out back across the bridge. We look up, it's gone. So we're thinking, wow, we should have, now we've lost it. And I said, hey, there's a little county, just a little small airport that was in the town, and it happened to be kind of out that way. And I said, well, maybe it's the airport. Let's get out to the airport. So we raced across town, went out to the airport. There was only one road in and out of that airport. The runway lights were off. There was no beacon on, and the only road with the only gate that was going in and out of that airfield was closed and locked with a chain. No one had come in or out of there. So nothing had come in and out of that airport. So we just kept going, and we knew that territory fairly well because we used to bootleg 3-2 beer from the Oklahoma state line back into Texas. So we knew all the back roads. But we were getting out in areas that we were not familiar with. And we were in my buddy's truck. He was driving. And I said, his name was TJ. I said, TJ, turn on your bright lights because it's really dark out here. We had a hard time seeing the road. He said, Aaron, my bright lights are on. It was just a really eerie black. And we're getting out in unfamiliar territory. We're really going faster than what we should on these dirt roads. And we hit a washout that we didn't know was there because we're not familiar with the road. It's a big washout. It goes down. You really have to slow down. It goes down to this bottom kind of a concrete area where water drainage from a little creek, and then it went back up. We hit that thing full speed. We never even stopped. We did Dukes of Hazzard over this thing in the truck. Went airborne. We hit the ground. We slid, I don't know how far down the dirt road sideways. When the dust and the dirt cleared, we piled out of the truck, and about a quarter of a mile away, sitting on the ground in the pasture, was that light. So the only thing we had, my buddy had a pair of toy binoculars under his truck. We all piled out, got on top of his truck. We took turns looking at it. This time the coloration had changed from red to orange with white lights underneath it. And we could never figure out what that was. So I was already late. I told my buddies, remember, we were going out of state the next morning. So I said, I got to get home, but remember where this is at. Come back out here tomorrow night and see if this thing is here. And so when I got back into town a week later, I found my buddies. I said, hey, did y'all go back out there and see that light? He said, Aaron, we went back out there and that light was not there. There's nothing out there. So that left a question mark in the back of my mind, Dave. And then to direct to your question, to your point, was in 2009 was the Glen Rose Stephenville light sightings here that started over the nuclear plant here in my county. And I was about 30 minutes ahead of it on the highway. I did not witness it, but as soon as I got into work, I started hearing reports about it. And that spurred me to write this book, Alien Agenda, The Return of the Nephilim.
Did you feel at any time that there was a threat against you when this happened? We got about a minute to go before we go to break.
No, I didn't. We didn't feel any threats when with the sighting I had when I was 17. No threats at all. It was just an ominous feeling. And you talk about the dinosaur tracks. I did get an ominous feeling when we were witnessing that. When I started to write this book, I went back and contacted my buddies from high school who were with me that night. And I said, look, I'm not going to tell you anything that I remember. Just tell me what you remember. And it was all the same. All three of them had the same account that I had when I was 17. And and they had all the same feeling. We had an ominous feeling. We didn't know what it was. We could not identify it. And we still have not been able to identify it. It's just no one knows what that thing was. But it left an impact on all four of us. And to this day, my friends do remember that. And it was something that they'll always remember in their life.
All right. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Dr. Aaron Judkins is with us on Spaced Out Radio tonight. And when we return from the break, we're going to get into the mystery of Gobeckli Tepe. Yeah, this ancient city. What stories does it keep? What is it hiding? And does it affect what is happening in present day? Dr. Aaron Judkins is with us. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we are clear. That was fast.
Yeah, it goes by fast. You're right.
You're a beautiful speaker, my friend. Beautiful speaker.
Well, thank you. It was not natural for me for a long time, and I still am not where as articulate and fluent as I want to be. But a lot of these type of things help. But I'll go back and listen to some of them, and it's embarrassing because you have these moments where you're trying to think of something or you space out. This happened to me. I was on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie back at the end of the year about this book, and of course they take live callers, and man, I blanked out on a live caller, and I just so you have these human moments where you just you're live on there and you're thinking, oh boy, really messed that one up. But I appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
No problem, man. No problem. It's been a lot of fun. I'm ready for you to educate me here in the next segment, man.
Well, it took I had to go through an education. Honestly, I had a lot of sacred cows slaughtered in this research doing this book. A lot of preconceptions that I had. Really, I really had to do a double take on this thing. As a matter of fact, I didn't even want to do it. It was a follower of mine. His name's Roger. He lives up in Canada. So Roger, if you're listening, hey buddy. And he's followed my work for years, and man, he really prompted me. I told him no 3 times. He goes, Aaron, you got to take another look at Gobeckli Tepe. I said, I don't have time. I was still flying on the helicopter. I was doing archaeology on the side, and I had no time. So when you got 2 careers, you got a family, and you got other things going on in your life, I didn't have time to even look at Gobeckli Tepe. I had heard about it. I actually referenced it in the book, in the Alien Agenda book. I actually referenced Gobeckli Tepe, so I knew about it, but I just had this preconceived notion that I thought I knew what it was. It's just a bunch of stones out there, and they're standing stones. A lot of standing stones in ancient history. This is no different, but I was sure wrong. I was wrong, and so this led me on a 5-year journey of this book. Man, it's
love it.
Amazing.
Love it. I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
Totally exciting.
My head was in this space for about 5 years, and it was difficult to pull out of it. When you pour your life, 5 years of your life into something, it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go. You know what I mean? It's just hard to let go. And because I was in this, man, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I was diligent trying to figure out what was happening. And I finally had a breakthrough that really put everything together. But had I given up, I probably wouldn't have got as close as I have with I think with more of an answer on it. But man, it was sure tough. And so I'm glad to get some fresh air, where I can just kind of stand back and enjoy it now, because it was a wrestling match. I'll tell you that. It really was.
No, I think this subject is completely interesting, because you're going to try and tie in the history of it. And I don't think many of us truly understand. We've all heard the name of Gobeckli Tepe and that there's something strange happening there or happened there, but I don't think the majority of us know why. And that, well, before you answer that, we'll come back from break, and I want you to kind of get to that. But I'm just enthralled with this in learning here.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I had to go on the journey myself, and it was not an easy journey because there was no single source where I could pull this information. I mean, I had to dig for this stuff, little nuggets here and there, but they're just not on the surface where you can find it. You had to dig, man, and you'd find a little nugget here, and maybe a month later, find a little nugget over here somewhere, and I just started following the clues and started trying to piece things together, and it finally started coalescing for me. But man, it was a tough nut to crack. I tell you that.
I bet. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Big thank you to our lone super chatter. Itzy Zaza, thank you for the love. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you go check it on out. And we're going to get going here in about 5 seconds, so sit tight. Here we go in the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet that we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, Dr. Aaron Judkins is here. They call him the Maverick archaeologist. We're going to get into Gobeckli Tepe. You've decided to make this your latest book topic. Tell us all about what Gobeckli Tepe is.
Well, Gobeckli Tepe is a site in southeastern Turkey. Now they pronounce it Turkey now. I know it sounds European to me, but it's a site in southeastern Turkey. It's an archaeological site, and it was discovered back in the 60s, but it was mislabeled as a Byzantine cemetery, so it got overlooked. It wasn't until the 90s where Dr. Klaus Schmidt, who was with the German Institute of Archaeology, just wrapped up a dig there in the region, and he had heard about it and was asked to come to the site, which he did. And he quickly realized that's not a Byzantine cemetery at all. It's Neolithic. And so he actually started excavations at Gobeckli Tepe back in the 90s, I think probably 1995. So Gobeckli Tepe, what does that mean? A lot of people have a hard time pronouncing it. Tepe means a hill. So if you heard of a tel in Israel, a tel is a hill. Tepe is a hill in Turkish. Gobeckli literally translated means a pregnant hill or a potbelly hill. So when you say Gobeckli Tepe, you're saying a pregnant hill or a pot-bellied hill. So that's what it is. It's a big 20-acre site, a rounded mound. It sits on the highest part of the region along the Jurmis mountain range, overlooking the ancient plains of Haran. This is along the Fertile Crescent, where the very beginnings of mankind were birthed. So Gobeckli Tepe is this big archaeological site, but when Klaus Schmidt first started excavating it, he realized that Gobeckli Tepe had some major discoveries that archaeologists were not expecting.
What is the purpose of the intrigue about this? What brings this to the table that we should be paying attention?
Well, because it doesn't fit the narrative that's been taught in archaeology. The narrative, here's the narrative, that, people came along, they settled in the area from a hunter-gatherer, Stone Age people. They developed a sedentary life because they started cultivating the grains there, which is the wild cereal grains of the wild wheat and the barley there along the ancient plains of Haran. And because of that, they cultivated the grains. and agriculture developed. And because of agriculture developing, they became sedentary, formed communities, and then they began to come together. And as a result of all that, then society was birthed and religion came after all that. Gobeckli Tepe is an archaeological site that dates back to 9600 BC, traditionally in the chronology, in the traditional chronology, which is pre-pottery Neolithic A, which is otherwise known as Stone Age. Stone Age people before the invention of writing, before the invention of pottery, before the invention of the wheel. And yet you have a Stone Age people building megalithic architecture in the Stone Age. And you had the very beginnings of religious ideology, which has brought them together. This is before sedentary life and agriculture. Why do we know that? Because we know that they were harvesting those wild grains. Those seeds were really small before they became cultivated. Just the little tiniest breeze, those little seeds would fall out. It was only after cultivation of years where those seeds began to change and became more stable, stronger. The hull became stronger, and so you could shake it and they weren't falling out. That was part of the agriculture and the cultivation that developed over years. But this is before all that. So we see the Gobeckli Tepe has a division of labor. They have organization. They have people coming together before all this stuff is supposed to be happening to build megalithic architecture. That's not supposed to happen in the Stone Age. And so this was a huge megalithic site, huge stone columns, some of them weighing 50 tons, that was quarried from a local limestone a quarter of a mile away, and was cut out in monolithic stone, which means in one single piece, dragged uphill up to that site and set in stone in footers and set upright. Some of these central stones in enclosure D are 18 and a half foot tall, and they're monolithic. It's megalithic architecture in the Stone Age, and it's not supposed to be there. That's the intriguing part. That's the part that has baffled archaeologists.
The physics of that seems impossible.
Well, I don't think it's impossible. Why? Because we see it's evidence that it's there. Some of these stones are actually still in situ. In situ means in their original context. They have not been moved. Now, over a period of time and earthquakes and things, some of these stones have fallen down and broken and fallen over. But some of them have remained in situ, upright in their original position. So it's not impossible. We would think that the pyramids would be impossible. I've been to Egypt, and the first time I stood next to the Great Pyramid of Giza, I realized how small I was. That is a huge, huge monumental structure. The foundation stones alone are huge. And listen, a picture does not do it justice. If you ever get a chance to go, you should go. Because you realize how big it is. But it's there, which means it's not impossible. It means someone did it. So if someone did it, we want to know how. And of course, that's still debatable. But again, we found the quarry site a quarter of a mile away at Gobeckli Tepe. And we found some of the stones still in situ at that quarry site that they were starting to cut out but didn't finish. So there's plenty of evidence for them working at the site, and archaeologists have estimated it probably took at least 500 men to build that huge complex there.
It almost reminds me, just listening to you say that, as a complete rookie of this subject. It reminds me, of course, the obvious one, the pyramids, because we still don't really know how those were made so accurately back in that day and age. It reminds me of Easter Island, the heads of Easter Island.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds very familiar. And then on a more recent scale was the Coral Castle in Florida, where the old man, I apologize, I forget his name, literally moved his entire castle and tons upon tons of coral to a different location by himself using physics that he would not let anybody know how he did it, even though he had figured it out. I mean, it just sounds, maybe it's because I'm looking at this from a 2025 perspective with technology, but it just sounds impossible.
Well, I've been to that site in Florida, Coral Castle. It's really an amazing thing. He said he discovered the secrets of the pyramids, but he wouldn't tell anybody. His name slips me now, and it's easy to find, I'm sure. But I've been to that site. It's fascinating. I think he had the big question is, how did he get that knowledge? And that's what he went to his grave with. Nobody knows how he did. There's a lot of theories, and I think some of them are good, but we just don't know. He took all that to the grave with him, unfortunately. But he said he had learned the knowledge of the secrets of the pyramids. We just don't know exactly how. But it's right. You're right. There's an interesting commonality in all these things because they had some kind of advanced knowledge, and apparently that guy at Coral Castle had figured at least part of it out.
Edward Leeds Scaldin.
All right, there you go.
Edward Leeds Scaldin was the gentleman's name. Lived 1887 to 1951.
Yeah, he built that for his girlfriend or his wife. I can't remember if he actually got married to her, but he built that for her and for their home. I mean, it was the whole thing, But
I think she left him for another dude. To
yeah,
be blunt.
It's terrible.
It was literally of our lives in the early 1900s with this.
Oh man, I was over in Scotland last year, stayed at this big castle, and guy was telling us about the history of the castle. He said it took 1,500 men 4 years to build this castle. He said he built it for his wife, his newly wife, built this thing for her. He got it built after 4 years, 1,500 men building this thing every day. I mean, it's a huge castle. She goes to the place and she goes, I don't like it. She never moved in there. She never lived in that castle. But yeah, it kind of figures you build all this stuff but it's a really wonderful place. If you ever get a chance to go to Coral Castle, you should. Pyramids, all these places are really fascinating. But you're right, they do have a commonality in the ancient architecture because a lot of these are very difficult to build. I mean, in the first book we talked about Alien Agenda, I talk about the pyramids in there, and I talk about the precision and how they laid that out to true north, and just the mathematics behind it alone is amazing. I mean, we don't build things that precise anymore today. That's really precise. So lots of things that the ancients knew that we have forgotten.
Why do you think science hasn't been able to figure out these mysteries today?
Well, there's a few reasons. Science has kind of focused down into specific areas of discipline, and so which can be good. Which, I mean, it is good. We need disciplined scientists in focused areas of research. But when you get so focused in and you can't bring, you don't. In other words, I think you lose some context when you do that. Back in the day, there was a little bit more of an open academic freedom, and now that's not so much. So if you're not within this, if you're not touting the normal academic, paradigm, then you're probably going to, you're going to get rejected. I mean, you're going to have your career put on the line. You're not going to be able to publish. I mean, I've seen this in several others, but who's gone through this that I know or know of. So it's difficult. It's difficult when you challenge the modern paradigm. One, and two, I think when you're working within that paradigm, you have to stay within the lines of that paradigm. So if you see something that doesn't quite fit, like Gobeckli Tepe, and you go, "What's monumental megalithic architecture doing in the Stone Age?" And then you come, you come up with an alternative theory about why it's there. Well, that's not really accepted by mainstream. And so you have these different challenges that come up because you're simply following the evidence, and sometimes the evidence doesn't take you where they want you to go.
Makes sense. When you look back at Gobeckli Tepe and the people that were there, obviously they were, very high into the agriculture and building their own community before everything. Did they just disappear like we've seen in other ancient sites, or did they move on from the territory when there was just nothing left?
Well, it's a great question. The answer is we don't know. The site was occupied between 1,000 to 1,500 years of time. So they were there a long time. Why did they leave? We're not sure. It could have been some kind of a change that happened where all of a sudden the fertile plain of Haran wasn't so fertile, because they had a staple crop there, man. They were hunting gazelles and antelope, these big wild auroch bulls that stood probably 9 foot at the shoulder. They had a lot of natural resources right there. So it could have been a change in the habitat, a change in the ecology. Could have been a change in the water source. Things could have dried up. Animals moved off. Maybe they had to follow the food. It could have been that they just developed more into a communal society later, and we see them living in more complex communities like Chattahoochee in the region and others. That's been very well excavated and documented. Some 10,000 people lived at that site. And so it just may have been that they moved on and found a different place to live. But Gobeckli Tepe is not the only thing going on over there in southeastern Turkey. This is ancient biblical Anatolia, by the way. There's a lot of history in this area. A lot of history, thousands of years of history. So all around this region of Gobeckli Tepe, you'll hear other sites like Navali Chori and Karahan Tepe and Chattahoochee and Kayun and Sefer Tepe. A number, it's a lot of other areas that have a very similar commonality to Gobeckli Tepe. They're similar in architectural style. They have similar large T-column stone structures, a lot of anthropomorphic structures, a lot of ethnophalic symbology representing their cosmology, and a lot of probably a lot of iconography that were zoomorphic, and like I said, they're anthropomorphic. So there's a lot of imagery going on around this region, and that's where I really kind of took a step back to see what's happening in the region.
The idea that this is a special, unique place, do we know if it has any ties to biblical times or the Roman Empire?
Not the Roman Empire, no. Biblical ties, there's actually, a framework that I address in the book about if it did, how would it connect? We see that Gobeckli Tepe is built with limestone. And so, you need to know a little bit about something in different fields, not just in your own field. You need to know a little bit about geology as an archaeologist. You need to know a little bit, about, if you're in my area, you need to know a little bit about something about paleontology, about the dinosaurs. So, but you really need to study. So you're versed in these things. And the limestone that's at Gobeckli Tepe, that's all laid down under sediment. That's a sedimentary rock. That means it was laid down underwater. So it's post the deluge, and which means that it can't be in the antediluvian world. So we know it's not as old as the antediluvian world. We know it's not as young as the Roman Empire, but it's pretty far back there. I mean, we're going back to the very beginnings of mankind here. But conventionally, they put Gobeckli Tepe again at 9600 BC on the standard chronology, which goes back to the Stone Age. Again, pre-pottery, Neolithic A. But we have a lot of chronology questions with some of the evidence that's popping up at Gobeckli Tepe.
We get about 3.5 minutes before we go to break here at the top of the hour. Dr. Aaron Judkins is our guest tonight. We're talking about Gobeckli Tepe. The idea that a lot of the people who look at, whether it's Egypt or Gobeckli Tepe or others, they always seem to, kind of lean towards that there may have been magical powers in those areas. I know it's a little bit woo to go down that road, but when we look at something special or unique, there always seems to be a wonderment of magic or divine secrets of the universe. Do we find any of those clues at Gobeckli Tepe?
I think we do find clues there, empirical evidence that I think point back to at least a ritualistic ceremony that they were performing in some of the enclosures. For instance, we found shallow stone vessels that have grooves in them. The only reason you need a groove in a channel is to drain liquid. And I think that liquid was probably a libation vessel which drained blood. Now, I'm not suggesting that they sacrificed animals or even humans at Gobeckli Tepe. There's no evidence for that, and I don't believe that. But I do think that they were using libation ceremonies or rituals in these enclosures. Why? Is because they were venerating their ancestors. And we see that ancestor worship or veneration of the ancestors was a common practice in this region throughout the people of the Neolithic. We do have markers in history going back to at least 2000 BC where they practice a culture practice of something called a kipsum, where every month they would take out your dead relative that's buried underneath the floor of your house. They would take you back up and give you ceremonial food and drink in the afterlife and put you back in. And so we see that Gobeckli Tepe has some of the same iconography and symbology associated with it. And I believe it gets back to veneration of the ancestors. And two, that they have deified two particular entities at Gobeckli Tepe. We find an image iconography of the crescent moon, which we know in that area, in Sogmatar and other places, even Jericho, all worship the moon god. Now, later on, the moon god's name was Sin. We don't know the particular name, but they worship the moon god in both the crescent form and the full moon form. We see this iconography on pillar 18 in enclosure D. And then on Western pillar 31, right next to it in enclosure D, we have an iconography of a bull symbol with horns right above the neck area. Now, these anthropomorphic images have no faces, but they do have arms coming down to the navel. They do have wearing a belt, and they're both wearing fox pelt loincloths in their front. No face, though. So they're anthropomorphic, which means that they are human-like, but no face. But we have these symbols, and the bull symbol, which is that crescent, or the crescent horns and the bull image, is on Western Pillar 31. This is, again, deification of the big auroch bull we talked about a while ago that stood about 9 feet at the shoulder. And we see that they have deified at least two of these, one representing the power over the heavens and the other representing the powers over the earth.
Well, that's pretty much a good place to, stop. You ran the timer just perfectly there, just so you know. That was fun. Absolutely fun. I want to know more about this story when we come back on the break. What is the mysteries behind Gobeckli Tepe? And we're also going to, before we take audience questions, get into Noah's Ark, because you've gone looking and written about Noah's Ark. Dr. Aaron Judkins is here. His friends call him Maverick. Maverick Archaeology. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, my friend, we are clear. I'm going to put you on mute. I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm going to step away for a couple minutes, okay?
All right, I'll do the same.
We got about 5.5 minutes.
Got it. All right.
Be right back. All right. All right. We are back. Hey, you got aliens? Welcome to the show again. Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. All right. What are we doing here? We're hanging out. That's what we're doing. We got about 90 seconds, Doc. Let me unmute you here. About 90 seconds. Hi, Dirty Filth. How you doing? Give us a blob update if you don't mind. Matthew Goodka, good to see you. If you have any questions for Dr. Aaron, do me a favor and put them in capital letters. We will get to them tonight. It's actually warm out, -5. Mm-hmm. It's t-shirt weather. T-shirt. That's only about 28 degrees.
Okay, -5 Celsius.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, good t-shirt weather. It's weird when when you become acclimated. I go outside. Oh, it's not bad. I can handle this for a while.
Yeah, when it's 110 here in Texas in the summer, I used to be acclimated, but I'm not so much anymore.
No. A big thank you to Itzy Zaza, our lone super chatter for tonight. We appreciate the love and support. Thank you to all the people listening who have hit subscribe, rang that bell. We appreciate it. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. Here we go. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get back to talking Gobeckli Tepe momentarily. But first, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Badal. Badal is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, let's bring in Dr. Aaron Judkins, known as the Maverick Archaeologist. You can check out his website, aaronjudkins.com, where you can find all of his books and the interesting topics from UFOs to Gobeckli Tepe to cave dwelling to Noah's Ark and many more there for you to check out and add to your library. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my honor tonight.
All right, Gobeckli Tepe. Well, let's warm it up once again. A lot of people, when I read this online, studying up for this show, a lot of people believe that this is a place where a lot of, today's products, I call it products, but I guess tools, whatever or foods were actually developed back in that area. We didn't really hear of cereals. We didn't hear of certain types of tools up until this place. How modern do we think Gobeckli Tepe was for its era?
Well, to them, I'm sure it was modern. I mean, they were using a lot of stone vessels, mortars, and pestles to harvest the wheat. They had obsidian blades where they were harvesting the wild grains, the wild wheat, the wild barley. They would take it back. I think they found hundreds and hundreds of pestles and mortars. We know that they were using to grinding those grains into flour. And then now we, understand that people at Gobeckli Tepe were living at the site. It was initially thought that they came, used it ceremonially, and then left. But now we see that they actually lived at the site because of the rectangular structures adjacent to the enclosures where people lived. They have now found 3 human burials at the site, just like at the Chattahoochee we talked about earlier, where people buried their dead under the floors. Now, they repatriated the skulls normally. Later on, they did this exactly at Gobeckli Tepe, where we found evidence of skull fragments in the enclosures, not the whole body, but the skull fragments. But 3 human burials were discovered. So it was a modern place to them where they lived and they ate. And we know that they had big stone vats there where they put the barley in. And we know that they were making beer. Probably didn't realize it at first what was happening, but that barley fermented, and we know that they had these big ritual feasts that they would have, and I'm sure that included beer. So I'm sure all that to them was just a modern way that they lived with all the stone tools available to them, the natural resources. They really had a very stable food crop there at along the plains of ancient Haran.
Got another interesting question for you here. Biblically speaking, Gobeckli Tepe would be older than Adam and Eve, because it's believed biblically that Adam and Eve lived about 9,700 years ago, and yet it's estimated that Gobeckli Tepe is 12,000 years old.
Well, yeah, 12,000 years, 9,600, 10,000 BC. That's the conventional dating. Now, when you use conventional dating and then you try to apply biblical dating, you're gonna run into chronology conflicts when you do that. So Gobeckli Tepe is not older than Adam and Eve. It's only older if you use the conventional timeline. The biblical timeline doesn't go back that far. Now, it depends on what timeline you're using. If you're using the Masoretic text timeline, or if you're using the Septuagint timeline, because those timelines do run differently. And as a matter of fact, the Septuagint timeline, you gain about over 1,400 years of time in the Old Testament that's not there in the Masoretic text timeline. So there's some chronology issues when you're trying to sync it up with traditional dating of Gobeckli Tepe. So that's not going to work. So it appears that way because those dates are erroneous. So when you try to sync them up, it's just not going to work that way.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Do you think Gobeckli Tepe was buried on purpose, or did it happen through erosion and disappear?
That's a great question. The first thought was that it was intentionally buried. And then they came back and said, no, it wasn't intentionally buried. It was a natural fill-in, was just sediment over time. I think the answer is probably a little bit of both. Why? Because we do see deliberate burial placements of some artifacts in the enclosures. Some of these stone heads that do have faces, they're anthropomorphic. They were placed and put face down and buried in the enclosure. Now, the rest of that enclosure may have got filled in over time after the site was abandoned. But we see it in neighboring complexes like Karahan Tepe, where that complex was intentionally buried. So we don't know the answer definitively, but we do see evidence for both. So I think the answer is a little bit of both. It was probably intentionally buried. Why? Because some of those stone faces, even at Karahan Tepe, their noses were cut off of these anthropomorphic stone faces. And if you want to deface something, a stone head, you're going to deface the nose. So this is exactly what we see. And then they were placed upside down and buried. So we see a lot of these things that are defaced on purpose back in antiquity. We don't know the reason for that. I give an interesting theory in the book about perhaps why they would do that, but it's just conjecture. But it's interesting because the only reason you would want to bury it after its use is because you don't want anybody to go back in there to do anything. And so I think they probably considered some of these sites taboo in some way, and they did not want anything to do with it. So I think there's a purpose there, and perhaps an answer of why they would bury it.
I want to get to Noah's Ark here in a minute because that's a topic that really intrigues me, and I'm not going to let you off the show before we talk about that. Okay, but I do want to just hit you up with one final question about Gobeckli Tepe, and that would be: do we know of any legends or spiritual stories coming from there? Are there any writings or scriptures that maybe haunt the area today?
There's no written language at Gobeckli Tepe. However, I think I have discovered language on the stones, and that's part of the reason I wrote the book, Decoding Gobeckli Tepe, because I think these are not just simple art motifs on these stones. I think it's specifically Anatolian hieroglyphics, but more specifically, Luvian logograms. We know that the logograms were discovered in the 1800s, but they were misclassified as hieroglyphic Hittite. Why? Because they were found at the ancient Hittite capital of Hattusa. They were not hieroglyphic Hittite. It was then in the 1930s that scholars realized they had misclassified it, and it was actually Anatolian hieroglyphics, but it was Luvian logograms. What's a logogram? A logogram is one symbol represents one word. And the Hittites adopted the Luvian logogram language. They knew Sumerian, which was a written language, but for formal writing on monumental stone, they used Luvian logograms. Why? Because it was a formal occasion to document some kind of ritual or religious ceremony, something formally they would document. You don't have a lot of room to write on stone, so one symbol equates to one word. And then even after the Hittites disappear, we see that the Luvian logogram language continued even throughout the Iron Age. So a lot of these symbols have been decoded now. We know a lot of what the logogram means. A lot of them have not been decoded, but what we do know is very clear at Gobeckli Tepe, which is a logogram for Deus. That's a transliteration from the logogram into Latin, which in our English means God. We see that logogram very clear at Gobeckli Tepe. That's what initially clued me into logograms. And if this is language, this is not simple art motifs on these stones. They are conveying language to us, which means that they are conveying some kind of religious ideology on those stones. They're not just random artworks. And so I think, yes, to your question, yes, there's language at the stones, but it has not been officially identified by the German Institute of Archaeologists or even other researchers. So I'm one of the first, I think probably the first to come out and say that there's probably language on these stones. I'm producing some of these new theories in the book, the regeneration theory, the Luvian logogram language linguistic link, and then I get into some of the Sumerian linguistic connections as well. But other than that, there's not anything there that we would consider something that would tie it to those concepts. But the iconography and the symbology in the logograms, I think, is conveying language. And when we look at that in a religious context, it shows that through their cosmology, through their ideological beliefs in the afterlife, that they were performing very specific functions in these enclosures to represent their dead loved ones, to make sure they were reborn from the netherworld back to the heavenly stars to be as a star god as they were venerating their original ancestors. So this is a connection that they had lost and they were trying to get back. And so this was a spiritual transformation, they believed. Once you died, you got reborn back into the afterlife, but you had to go through this kind of crushing fire destruction phase. And then you got reborn back through those stones, through your ancestors, as venerating your original ancestors back to the heavenlies, where they believed that you came from as a star god. So this all has to do with their beliefs in the afterlife, and I detail all this in the book. So I lay a foundation for this that you can see, but it's very clear that they are actually worshiping and venerating their ancestors at Gobeckli Tepe.
Love it. Thank you for breaking that down for us. I want to get into Noah's Ark, because you have a book that can be bought right now on your website, which is aaronjudkins.com, which is about the Quest for Noah's Ark Expedition Journal. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so, you mentioned in my bio, I was producer of a film called Finding Noah. It came out in theaters in 2015. I was one of the archaeologists also in the film, and I served as a triple threat. I was one of the team medics as well. But this was a major scientific endeavor on Greater Ararat in eastern Turkey to search to see if there was a superstructure on that mountain that could be confirmed by independent researchers, archaeologists, and geologists. So we had a lot of people on our team. We took a film crew with us to document everything. This is out now. It's called Finding Noah. It's narrated by actor Gary Sinise. And there was a lot that went into the film. We took there's film that's never been filmed in this area before. So the search for Noah's Ark is a quest that a group of intrepid explorers steps out of their normal everyday lives to search a mountain that's about 17,000 feet high on snow-capped glaciers, to put their life at risk to search to see if there's something out there. We're following the clues from the ancient sightings and from the modern day searches and sightings. And so that led us to an area, particularly on the mountain, that we were trying to pin down. And so that led to our climbing the mountain in 2013. We were the only research team. We were the only research team to allowed on that mountain at the time to do this for about 3 years.
Do you believe that Noah's Ark sits on Mount Ararat?
Well, there's other candidate sites for Mount Ararat. The reason is because there's alternative Mount Ararats. There's one in northern Iran. There's another one south of that location in Turkey. There's another one. So the question is, what is the mountains, plural, the mountains of Ararat? Because Mount Ararat is just, there's two peaks. There's Greater Ararat at 17,000 feet. There's Lesser Ararat next door at 14,000 feet, about the size of our one of our mountains in Colorado here, Pikes Peak. But that's it. There's no mountain range. If you would think of the Great Rocky Mountains, it's not a range. So what's the mountains of Ararat? So we're trying to identify where this is. A lot of people think that it's about 30 miles away at a place called the Derupanor site that Ron Wyatt made famous back in the 70s and 80s. And a lot of people think that's the landing site in Noah's Ark. I get into all these questions that I address from an academic point of view. If you go to academia.edu, just type in my name. I've got articles on all these things to address these questions. But to your point, yes, I think it is on Greater Ararat still. Why? Because that mountain range is about 400 square miles. It's one of the largest land masses on the planet. And it's not as simple as just going up there and looking around. You have geopolitical issues. You have the height. You have glaciers. As a matter of fact, what you're not going to see in the film, Dave, is a truce broke between the Turkish government and the PKK, who are at odds with the Turkish government because they're fighting for an independent Kurdistan. And there was a truce, and while we were on the mountain, that truce broke, and half of our team got captured at gunpoint. I was still up on the summit, but they don't play games there. It's a very dangerous part of the world. The mountain's volcanic. In 1840, it blew the northwest side of the mountain out, called the Aurora Gorge. It's twice as deep as the Grand Canyon. So if I could tell you, hey, we think that Noah's Ark is in 3 or 4 pieces. We'll make the Grand Canyon twice as deep as it is now. We'll put it on the bottom somewhere and string it out. And I say, go down there and find it. Maybe it's in this area. Maybe it's in this other area. That's what it would be like to go up on Ararat to try to find it. Oh, by the way, you got to search under a lot of ice. So it's not just a simple matter of going up and looking around. I think it's probably still on that mountain where we've got continuing efforts by others to search to see if we have other sites that have not been ruled out on the mountain, but it's at your own risk. We've had people that's vanished, not from our team, but we've had people that's suddenly died. People that were helping us from some of the locals in mysterious circumstances. And there was there's just some cases where you just can't go by yourself. We had a Scottish climber that was not associated with our team, but he broke one of the golden rules in climbing, is he went by himself, and you just don't do that anywhere. You tell people where you're going, but you climb with someone, and he didn't do any of those things. And you have gorges, you have these snow-capped, blanketed crevasses, not including their Aurora Gorge. So we don't know if he fell off into a crevasse or if he went off the side of the gorge. Those are 1,000 feet drops, 4,000 or 5,000 feet drops. We don't know if he got captured, got murdered. We just don't know what happened. So it's not an easy place to go look. There's extreme challenges with it. Teams that went before us have been struck by lightning. There's wild dogs on the mountain. There's just a lot of challenges with this. So yes, I think it's still on the mountain somewhere. And we have people still looking.
Do you think that Noah's Ark was what we read in it biblically? Because there is controversy about that too.
There is, and I understand the controversy. It's an antediluvian artifact that, if it still exists, goes back to the time of the flood. So a lot of people relegate that story to myth. We do find in the archaeological records, even outside the land of the Bible, and extra biblically, not even found in the biblical text, in archaeology that confirms biblical names, places, dates, and events. So this is why this is important, because of the past ancient sightings, like people like Marco Polo and a lot of people that we've actually documented in the book that have seen it, but our modern searchers, such as Colonel Jim Irwin, who was our Apollo astronaut, walked on the moon, and he flew over something on that mountain when he was in the military. And when he retired from NASA, he spent the remaining part of his life climbing about 9 times, summiting Mount Ararat, trying to find that thing that he flew over. And he nearly died on that mountain. He fell. They couldn't get to him. He was in a very precarious place. They had to leave him overnight, exposed on the mountain. He nearly died. But it was something that he believed strongly in. And the credibility that Jim Irwin brought to the search was, I think, is telling, because he believed that he saw something on that mountain. And a number of other people have too, including the locals. So I think it's worth the search. A lot of people ask me, even in the film, why would you go and look for something like this? Well, it's a very simple answer. We don't know and we won't know if we don't go. Someone has to take up the challenge and go. And we're just not ever gonna know if someone doesn't go and take up the challenge. So I was invited to come along, and I just took up the challenge to go. And so part of what I wanted.
Awesome. Aaron, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Dr. Judkins continues with us at Spaced Out Radio right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear.
Sorry, I lost track of time. I didn't catch the bottom of the hour there.
Shame on you. Absolutely shame on you.
I didn't have my clock on. I wasn't watching it, so.
I can't believe you're not timed out on your voice to my recordings.
Yeah, I know. I missed it that time for sure.
I'm just going to be honest with you, Dr. A.A. Ron. You know, you just ruined the show with that. Just ruined the show.
Well, we got another segment to go here, right?
All right. Well, we'll give you another half hour to pick it up.
All right. What are you going to do in this last half hour?
I want to ask you a couple more questions about Noah's Ark, and then we're going to get to audience questions, which will take us probably right to the end.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Yeah, dude, I have learned so much tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, there's still a whole lot there that we can talk about, but
sure.
A lot of the programs that I've done just want to focus in on particularly Gobeckli Tepe, which I could do 2 hours just on that. I could do a whole night show on that, but it's neat because I've done a lot of these other things, and so they're fun to talk about.
Well, I hope at least I've asked you some good questions rather than sounding amateur on the topic.
No, it's great questions. I mean, these are questions that a million other people have about it. They may have never even heard of it, so I just try to start from the top and let people know what it is and why it's important. It's very interesting. I think if people read the book, you're going to get an education in this book because if you just read the footnotes is going to take you through an education in this book that you're not going to believe. I've heavily referenced and cited the book, and there's just an array of references there, but a lot of it comes from scientific journals that you wouldn't expect. But the book really took me down some rabbit holes that ended up having to explain, so people would have an understanding of where I was coming from. I'm very clear in the book. And the one thing, I'm not, dogmatic in my position. These are theories. So I'm just presenting new ideas for this. But I think I'm pretty close to having an answer about what the site was purposed for. And then when you actually read the book and by the time you get through chapter 9, man, you're gonna know because I'll walk you through some of the Sumerian language and some of these other things, and it becomes clear. And then what I like to do is contrast it with other sites. And I know we didn't talk about this, but when I saw the Los Lunas Mystery Stone in New Mexico, this was this ancient Hebrew language, Paleo Hebrew. It's out in the middle of the New Mexico desert on an 80-ton stone. It's isolated. Someone asked me about it, and I'm headed out there, man. I'm going to this site, and I made multiple trips out to the site. I took people with me. This is before I studied Paleo Hebrew, but it's an abridged version of the Ten Commandments written on the stone. But it took me over a year, but I finally solved it. And there's people that still will not believe that they just don't believe that my conclusion is correct. But matter of fact, I had a bunch of them that joined me on a Zoom, and they're convinced it goes back to the Phoenician times or older, that it's evidence of a lost Hebrew tribe. But here's how I solved it. I zoomed out. I talked about scientific discipline and being kind of honed in on the thing. Well, I zoomed out and I said, how does it fit in context of the region? And it doesn't. It's completely out of context. And so I just started kind of chiseling away at it. The Battalion of Mormon was near there, but they kept very good records, and they sent people out there and they said, this is not us. We did not even come this way. This is not anything we've done. But what it is that it's between 1840 and 1860. There was a group of crypto Jews coming out of Germany that were coming to this area of Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and then south of Albuquerque in the village of Los Lunas. And there was a small group, about a dozen to 15 families that was registered on the census that lived in that community in the village of Los Lunas. And I think as a reminder and as a cultural history to teach their children, they went to the highest point in that area called Hidden Mountain, and they found a boulder, and they abridged in the best Paleo-Hebrew they could remember the version of the Ten Commandments.
So I have to get you to hold on right there, buddy, because we're about to come back. And here we go, everyone. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We're going to get back to Dr. Aaron Judkins in a moment, but first we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Talking Noah's Ark with Dr. Aaron Judkins. He's got a book on it on his website, aaronjudkins.com. Just click on the bookstore tab. It's The Quest for Noah's Ark. Now, when you're going to look for this, how much does the Bible play into the factor here, as not only for clues, but to understand what was going on during the Great Flood?
Well, I mean, the Bible is that is the big part of the story. We see that this is also mentioned in later on in ancient Babylonian text. But every culture around the earth, some 500 ubiquitous flood legends are embedded in every culture around the earth. We know that something happened. We see evidence for it in geology. Matter of fact, this explains sedimentation, fossilization, geology, etc. We talked about the dinosaurs earlier. I've excavated a number of dinosaurs, and I've not found one dinosaur that has been charred or burned by a meteorite. Now, meteorites have hit the earth, and they hit at all kinds of times. But we find evidence of dinosaurs that have been buried alive underwater. We see this in Gobi deserts now of China, other places where it is dry deserts now. There's evidence that they were buried underwater at one particular time. Marine fossils, index fossils on Mount Everest, including Mount Ararat, where I climbed. You find these little marine creatures up 3 miles high. How did they get there? This was evidence of a global flood, and it's not just me saying that. There's evidence for it that I cite in particularly in the new book Decoding Gobeckli Tepe. You can find it on Amazon now. It's trending #1 in new release in Archaeology and Prehistory. But there certainly the biblical text is a major clue because it gives dimensions for the ark. Now it gives it in cubits. We do know that cubit measurements changed over time, but we do know what those are, between 18 inches which was a standard cubit, and a royal cubit, which would have been about 20.6 or 20.8 inches. long. So we know roughly the dimensions of the ark, length, height, and width. And we do know that the ark was built in 3 levels with windows at the top and a big door that was shut in. So if we find, and it was pitched within and without. So if we've got anything like this that we can verify independently with other researchers, that's the goal, is to do that. And that's why we made that search back in 2015, and the search continues. So this is an important piece of history that's embedded in our culture and around the world. The Armenians have embraced the story of Noah's Ark. Armenia, that mountain, Mount Ararat, was in their territory, their country, for thousands of years, until that got carved up and it went to Turkey. And now it's within the borders of Turkey. But there is a lot of history in that area. And so we also not only follow the biblical sources, but the ancient sightings and the modern day sightings as well. And then we use things like satellite data, a GPR, ground penetrating radar, and we try to put all this together and try to come up with a particular area that we can search for these clues.
I know this may sound like a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do we actually know where Noah's Ark is? There's thoughts, there's theories, but have we truly located what we could confirm where it is? And are we just, maybe not supposed to know where it is? I don't know.
Well, there's certainly debates and scholarship about where it is, because depending on where you put Mount Ararat is where you're going to search, and you may be hundreds of miles off if you don't get Mount Ararat right. Again, we go back to the mountains of Ararat described in the biblical text. I talk about this on the research paper I wrote up on academia.edu on finding the mountains of Ararat, because it depends on where you put that. And again, we have the famous Darupinor site that was made famous by Ron Wyatt, and people say that's it. I don't believe so. I've been there. I've researched that site. Independent archaeologists and geologists since the 1980s have gone to that site. It's a natural geological formation. So, and there's other reasons why that's not it. But yes, there is a lot of debate in scholarship. And I think it's not a matter of if we find it. I think it's a matter of when we find it. So I'm hopeful that it will be found. But look, I don't need Noah's Ark for me. It doesn't matter to me either way. So for me, it's not a thing that I have to find. It's just not a Moby Dick moment for me. But look, if we do find it, and we can verify it independently, then I think that will probably get some people head scratching. I think that'll be a head scratching moment for a lot of people, and they're going to have to consider the evidence. And I think once they consider the evidence, I think they'll have to consider what the historicity of Genesis is. And if that history bears out to be true and is confirmed in archaeology and places, people, dates, times, and events throughout any of the scripture, whether it's Old Testament or New Testament, I think you have to consider the evidence. And the preponderance of evidence suggests that historicity is actually indeed true.
I know this is a little bit off, but it kind of leads to the same thing. We look at the Shroud of Turin and the Catholic Church owning the shroud, and yet they won't confirm whether or not it is that of the depiction of Jesus Christ on there. We believe we found areas of proof where Noah's Ark is, but there's no real confirmation. What would it mean if both of those were confirmed, or are there people within maybe the Catholic Church, the Vatican, wherever, that truly do know the answers but don't want to bring it out to the public?
Not regarding Noah's Ark, but the Shroud of Turin, I think, has been confirmed. Now, there's still ongoing debate and scholarship with it, but the scholarship right now is leaning more to authentication of that shroud than ever. Now, one of the researchers said he went in when they had unrestricted access when they first went in, and he said, "This is a no-brainer. We're going to knock this out by the end of the day on day one. We're going to go home," because he was absolutely convinced this was not authentic. Years, decades later, he has still not been able to falsify it. Now, this is part of the scientific theory. You have to, test it, observe it, try to repeat it, etc. But one of the key things you do is try to falsify that data. And they could not falsify it. So what that told him was that shroud is authentic. And there's new research out now that even shows more authenticity of that shroud. But what he said, I can't tell you who that person is, but I can tell you this. And this guy's not a Christian. So he has no dog in the hunt. It don't matter to him. He said, I can't tell you who it is, but I can tell you this, that person was a man about in his early 30s who suffered a harsh Roman crucifixion that was not normal, was bleeding from around the crown of his head all the way down, was whipped from the front and the back where the whips came around to the front, and was crucified and had a sword wound in his side. Now, there's only one person in history that's ever suffered that kind of execution. The Romans, of course, the crucifixion was invented by the times of Alexander the Great in Greece, but the Romans perfected it. And so when you got crucified, it was not an immediate death. It was to make you suffer. And it usually took you days to die. It was a cruel death. But we see that this image on the shroud lends to the only way that image could be produced on the microfibers of that cloth is by gamma radiation light, a sudden burst of gamma radiation light. That's the only explanation. That is not a natural event, and that cannot be reproduced. That's not me or my opinion. That is from the scholars who have studied that. So I think that's bearing out to be authentic. And even though they probably can't say who it is, there's only one description, one person in history who suffered and meets all those characteristics. So I think that lends to even more authentication of the shroud. Now, they're not going to know anything about Noah's Ark, I don't think. But I think that's the reason that the search continues for the Ark, is because if we can confirm a superstructure, no matter where it is, if it's not on Mount Ararat or wherever, if it can be confirmed, I think, again, people are going to have to take a second thought about if that scripture is true. Is it true history? And if it's true history, you have to come to a decision on that. I think it puts people in several camps. One, doesn't really change my thought because I don't need it. Two, it would probably change some people's minds and would win some over to say that thing is true, and I have to reconsider what this means for me. And I think the third possibility is that some people already have their mind made up, and no matter what evidence you show them, empirically or not, they're not going to believe it. So same is true with the shroud. You can have scholars study the shroud and come to a scientific consideration on what the evidence is showing out, but people aren't going to believe. This is what happened with the Lost Lunas Mystery Stone that I solved. It's not ancient Paleo-Hebrew from a lost tribe of Israel that came over here. It is from the 1840s, between the 1860s, from a group of Jewish crypto Jews who migrated out of Germany starting in 1840 through 1860. We see those families' names written on the census records, and those small, probably 12 to 15 families that lived out in the village of Las Lunas wrote in the best Paleo-Hebrew that they could remember, because it was not perfect. There was some Greek lettering that was substituted, but that's how I solved that. That thing is out of context. There's nothing there archaeologically that supports it. And we see that the census records actually confirm that Jewish families lived there, migrated out of Germany in the 1840s. This is how I also applied the model to Gobeckli Tepe, is I take a 35,000-foot view approach. I widen out the context, and I look what's going on in the region. And so when you do all this, I think there's a good chance that Noah's Ark could be confirmed. And it's just my personal belief that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
All right, let's get to some audience questions here because they are piling up and we got a few minutes here. Let's go to CS here. Dr. Judkins, what are the big giant rocks that are egg-shaped in the Goat Neck area of the Brazos? I have seen them cut in half by my grandfather's father. He was from the Goat Neck area.
Those are just natural boulders. We have a lot of boulders here kind of conglomerated in one spot in Glen Rose. It's called Big Rocks Park. And you can go, it's right off the river. And these are just big natural boulders. I think these other big giant rocks that you're talking about that are egg-shaped, I think those are probably different, but I know what you're talking about. Those are just natural rocks that they have a certain shape to them that looks interesting, but they're just a natural rock. They probably at some point got tumbled in a certain position, or they got formed in such a way that they kind of produce this egg-looking shape, but they're just natural rocks.
All right, let's go to another question. Let's go to Frost Kitten. Why do you think they planted all of those olive trees all over the Gobeckli Tepe site?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because this has come up before. Some people think that they're doing this to stop the excavations. The archaeologists have slowed excavations, and they're saving some of the site for future generations of archaeologists, and they do it to leave it in context. It's not all of it. It's just a small area that they leave to show this section right here is what it used to look like. The olive trees were planted, I think, before excavation started there. They were younger trees, but it was planted by the landowner who actually owned the land, and they were planted a long time ago. But this is, I think, not done by the archaeologists. There's a video up that the director of the excavations has given an update, and I think that you can go back to the fall of last year, perhaps find that. He talks about those trees. There's not something that they did. So I think that was just from the landowner at the time who planted those trees.
Perfect. Let's move over to K-Rod here. I heard they put a stop to digging at Gobeckli Tepe. Is that true?
No, it's not true. That comes from the update that the director of the German Institute of Archaeology, they have slowed down a little bit. Look, it took 10 years to excavate one enclosure alone, enclosure D. It took them 10 years. So it's a lot of rock. It's not easy to dig, and they have to publish on this. They have to sort it, but at the end of the day, it does have to be published. And so information is really slow coming out of Gobeckli Tepe. This is the reason why. It's years, that they found those human burials, and we're just now learning about it. They've known about it for years, probably 4 or 5 years or so. But no, they're not stopping excavations, but they are slowing down a bit. And I think that's just to get caught up on their publication and their research that they've got to put out on all this. And then they'll catch up eventually to, I think, back to a regular pace.
All right, let's move on to Jay here. Have you ever found anything in your excavations that you just had to take a step back in amazement?
The excavations in Qumran, where we discovered the 12th Dead Sea Scroll Cave in 2017, that was a major international find. That made the front cover of National Geographic in December 2018 issue called The Bible Hunters. It relabeled that cave, surveyed as Cave 53, as a Qumran Dead Sea Scroll Cave number 12. That was probably one of the most amazing archaeological finds that ever has been discovered. I was honored to be a part of that team.
For people who may not know what that is, explain that archaeological find.
Yeah, so it's the caves in Qumran where they initially discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls in 11 caves between 1947 to 1957. This is where the corpus of the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. Some of these, every book of the Old Testament was vetted, with the exception of the book of Esther, but every book of the Old Testament, including multiple copies of Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, the Psalms, and the Great Isaiah Scroll, which I have here in my office, was completely intact. Now, the scrolls were written in Aramaic and in Hebrew, when they looked at the writings, the Great Isaiah Scroll, because it's completely intact, it matches word for word with your modern day translations now, with the exception of some transliteration issues where we don't have a specific English word for the Hebrew word, so we transliterate it into English. But otherwise, it's accurate, and this pushes the textual evidence back 1,000 years further in time than what we initially had. The oldest manuscript was the Aleppo Codex. Now the Dead Sea Scrolls pushes that back another 1,000 years in time, close to the generation of Christ. And we see that every book of the Old Testament has been vetted. And this is before Christianity. The Dead Sea Scrolls were not written by Christians. This is a group of Essenes that lived in Qumran, but this is pre-Christianity. So this vets in manuscript, in archaeology, it is a gold standard. And this is exactly what the Dead Sea Scrolls found, were hidden in these caves, all these manuscripts, and we discovered the 12th Dead Sea Scroll cave.
All right, let's move on to another question with 3 minutes to go here. Frost Kitten is asking, why do you think they buried it on purpose?
Well, because of the taboo. They knew what was happening at the site, or they had heard stories later on. They didn't want anything to do with it, so they buried it. That way, nobody could get access in there to do any of these rituals or ceremonies. I think it's a conjecture, but I think probably that's why they did, because they had some kind of taboo about the site, and they didn't want anything to do with it, so they buried it.
Jennifer is asking, why did they leave?
We don't know. Probably, again, an ecological reason. Food source, water source dried up. They had to follow the food. They simply, the community grown. They moved to a different location in the region, and they just lived there. Maybe a little bit more convenient site to water, perhaps. But again, we're not exactly sure. But they did occupy the area of Gobeckli Tepe for at least, estimates are between 1,000 and 1,500 years.
All right, let's continue on. Jules is asking, who are the ancestors that worshipped at Gobeckli Tepe?
Great question. I'm not going to give you the answer because you got to read it in the book. I know that's a shameless plug, but look, if I just tell you the answer, it's going to be hard for you to understand it. The answer is simple. It's easy. But once you read the book, I lay out a foundation for it. And then once you read it and you see it, you go, now it becomes clear. So if you just read the book, you'll get a solid answer for that question. But it's a great question because I identify exactly that question. So I give an answer in the book.
Okay. Let us next go to D. Saifa. How old is the ancient multi-story cavern site in Durinkyu? I know I butchered that, and I'm okay with that, as it was used as a shelter for geomagnetic storms.
Well, that's a great question. I'm not, I've never been to that area. I would love to go. I don't know how old it is, but yes, it's a fascinating site. I would absolutely love to get in there. But to answer your specific question, how old is it? I'm just not sure, but it's old. And it's fantastic because the engineering that went into doing that was fantastic. I mean, they had ventilation and everything in there. Just unbelievable what the ancients could do, the knowledge they had, the advanced techniques. The ancients were not dumb people. They were smart, intelligent people. And we need to give them credit for that.
All right. Final question for you. We'll make it quick. I need about a 15-second answer. Dr. Judkins, what do you think of Gobeckli Tepe being a tourist trap idea?
I don't think it's a tourist trap. It's a real site. It has real significant history. And if you understand the significance of that history, then you understand why it's important. It changes. It's the paradigm that's changing the paradigm. So no, it's not a tourist trap at all. It is a real archaeological site with really significant impact.
Thank you, Dr. Aaron Judkins. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller, then Little Timmy James, in for the UFO report.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. This was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks all the listeners and all the great questions. They're really great questions. And the show was really great. It's one of the few shows, Dave, that just flowed really well. I really enjoyed doing the show with you.
Thank you.
And it was just well balanced. And, a lot of these shows aren't like that I've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a real joy to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
We're very much appreciating the compliments. And yes, stay in touch, because anytime you have a book out, let us know.
Well, probably we're not going to have another one for a while. So, yeah, this is going to be it for a while. But there's always other things to talk about, and we can dig in a little bit more. I'd love to come back. But thank you for having me back on. All the great questions from the listeners tonight. And for people who are still listening on YouTube, you just go to my website, aaronjudkins.com, and you can type in the contact. Just send me an email if you got more questions. I'll be glad to respond to you. So,
perfect. Thank you, Aaron.
Take care, guys.
Good night, Aaron Judkins. Everybody, how awesome was that? That was fantastic. We'll be right back.
Look at me sneaking in here without Dave knowing. He probably knows. Let's put that right there. I don't know if I'm not sure if his chair is in the move or not, but we'll find out. Oops. There. Doing the watercolor of the egg today. That nice green. Oh yeah. I hope everyone had a good night tonight. Dave, I'm hijacking the top of the hour here on you. That's right. I'm pretty sure he's okay with that. He's outside feeding the Sasquatch and let the dog man out for a whiz and whatnot. I'm just going to scribble some, well, I don't have to scribble any cartoons, just to paint them, but cartoons are in the works. This is the egg that everybody's talking about. My thing about the egg is what's going to happen when it hatches. Kind of hoping for like a dragon or something.
Hey, Dirty, you showed up.
Oh, hey, Dave. I did. I snuck in.
I saw that. I heard your beep.
It's more of a blip.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that weird sound. Blob sleeping in the back over top of the heat register. Got a little bit cold today.
Very nice. Excuse me. Thank you tonight to Itzy Zaza and Search and Destroy for the super chats. Always appreciate your love and support of SOR. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Sweet Robbie G, how you doing, buddy? If you come to our Vegas event, he will give you chest hair. Yeah. Here we go. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet called Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Betel. Betel is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I live in a city in northeastern India, but my parents and I always go to visit our grandma's house on the holidays, and on some occasions in the countryside. I'm 18 years old. The small town, which is kind of a village my grandma's house is in, is on farmland surrounded by many woods, if you get what I'm saying. So let's cut to the scary part. The town is like any other ordinary small town in our state, but the people have been seeing some weird stuff throughout the years. There are countless stories, so I will try to write the ones I remember. The oldest I can remember was told by my dad when I was a kid. He said that he and his friend and some of my uncles were drinking and talking in the cabin attached to the back of my grandmother's house in the backyard. The backyard is attached to a small pond and a few square kilometers of woods and farmland, since my family from my mother's side owned many parts of the property. So as I said, they were enjoying the stuff when they saw a fireball going through the bamboo trees in the backyard. He said fireball, but it wasn't attached to anything like a stick or a lamp, and they didn't hear footsteps or see anyone. The odd detail is, they said the fireball was blue. I don't know, but I saw those associated with spirits and stuff somewhere. Next was an occasion I can't quite remember. The whole incident is very foggy, but my aunt was cooking in the kitchen, and she heard a whistle in the backyard through the window in the kitchen. After some time, my dad and one of my uncles returned to throw away the previous day's trash. He said he saw a guy using our abandoned toilet in the backyard. The bathroom's made by my grandpa, since many people in that area are very poor. So my dad and my uncle approached the guy and asked what he was doing, when he had just said that he was there to use their toilet since my uncle sensed some danger, like the guy could be a robber or something. Hence, he and my father returned to the house to pick up some tools, phones, torches, and a safety knife. But the guy was not there when they returned. They went in for just a minute to collect the supplies, and my aunt in the kitchen, looking out the window, said that he just vanished. I don't know if it was paranormal, an attempted robbery, or something else. Now, there are other events like one of my uncles who partied late at night was coming back one night when we heard something following him. The road was of course dark, mildly foggy, and no one else was out there. Such a cliche. So of course he got scared and began looking back with his phone flashlight and walking fast when the footsteps started creeping him out. He started saying God's prayer and played a song on his phone. He began walking faster. Still, after just a few steps his phone died and he could hear the footsteps chasing him. He sprinted through our backyard because of a shortcut. Our backyard and farmlands are all connected to the road. When he came home, I don't remember what exactly happened. But still I remember him saying to his mother, which is my grandma, that he was chased by something. He said it was a solo footstep though, like it was something with only one foot hopping after him. The following day he told the whole story that I just wrote, and most of my family shrugged it off as a mild paranormal incident. As I said before, this town has bizarre things going on, so it's natural to become used to it.
All right. Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another great story. We always appreciate you kicking off hour number 3. If you want more, just head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. He's got thousands of stories for you right there. Let's head to the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Say hello to little Timmy James, bringing in the UFO report. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. And how are you doing?
I am great, man.
Excellent.
I am great. And, it's a busy time. It's, the argument over drones, the argument over what's happening in ufology, psionics. Are we able to contact aliens? The spooks are coming out, trying to say none of this is real.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here, people. Go back to your merry ways of Bugs Bunny cartoons and eating Fruit Loops for breakfast.
Yeah. No kidding. No, there's a lot of stuff. It's coming from all different angles. But the drone thing, obviously, I would think that if you haven't heard about it, most of us have. That yesterday, the White House came out with the official explanation of the drones. So we'll just start off this way, and I'll lead you down the path. So yesterday's statement from the White House was, after research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States. So that just was like, okay, phew, now I feel so much better, right? Thank you for explaining that all to us. So whatever, everybody's take it for what you will, but I've got to let you know, if you guys have not run in or heard or seen this assemblyman from New Jersey, and his name's Brian Bergen. He's got lots of videos I've seen, and this guy is like Tim Burchett without a filter, if you can imagine that. So he had a bit of an interview after he heard this statement, and I'll take you down there. So Assemblyman Brian Bergen he serves as a Republican whip in the New Jersey Assembly and previously was an Apache helicopter pilot in the U.S. Army. So the interviewer starts and goes, thanks so much for coming on and thank you so much for your service. All right, I want to cut right to the chase. Do you believe what the current administration is saying, or are they not telling us the full truth about what's going on here? So he answers, I think somebody put in Chat GBT, what is the answer we can give that's not a real answer but shuts people up? And that's what it spit out. I mean, look, if you watch the entire press conference, everything was very Trump-esque, except for that ridiculous little briefing that they gave at the beginning. It was scripted. It was a bunch of words that didn't say anything. I don't really understand what the point of it was, actually. And quite honestly, it didn't answer anything. And by the way, for the record, every aircraft in the sky is authorized to be there by the FAA. So that's not news to us. I still don't know why the FBI and local law enforcement weren't in the loop. FAA authorized, it was research drones, which, by the way, begs the question, what are they exactly researching and how come law enforcement didn't know what it was? Last I checked, FAA wasn't running around doing a whole bunch of research like that. They're a very conservative agency designed to police our skies. There's no chance this was them doing that. I don't really understand why that would even be what it is being articulated right now. What do you think it is? What do you think they're not being transparent about? I don't know. The one thing that I can tell you is we know that it was something within the U.S. government. FAA research, I really highly doubt it. I think it was some other, why would the FAA put TFRs, temporary flight restrictions, all over New Jersey in response to the drone issue when there was no drone issue and it was of their own making? There was a lot of chaos in New Jersey over this. This response, honestly, it's not good enough for anybody, including me. And by the way, are there still drones out there? He was asked. We haven't talked about that yet. He answers back, I do have some people still telling me they see it. I haven't seen them in well over a month. So as far as I'm concerned, they're either not there or not very rampant right now. But there was a period of time where it was. They were all over the place, and I saw them with my own eyes, and our own state police said that they were there, and the FAA and the government was denying it the whole time. And this response that we got is not good enough. So he says, what I'm hoping for, and I think we're going to see it soon, is for some reporter to catch Trump in a moment where he's just going to give it to him straight. And that's where we're going to find out what really is going on. Okay. So interesting, but I had a little bit of a take on this, and I'm going to add my 2 cents. So I had to write it down because it was a bit of my brain was going at 1,000 kilometers an hour. So given that the FAA had approved the craft, how do we reconcile the Joint Chiefs statement that the FBI, DHS, FAA, and the DOD were unable to identify who was operating the drones in December? Why the discrepancy in the stories? Official representative for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, quote, on December 14th, 2024, right now, the FBI, DHS, FAA, and DOD have been unable to determine who is responsible for flying the drones, and there's no indication that there are adversary nations involved. To date, we have no intelligence or observations that would indicate that they were aligned with a foreign actor or that they were malicious or they had malicious intent. But we don't know. We have to be able to locate or identify the operators or the points of origin. So December, they had no idea. Now, that was us, right?
Right. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. And look, I want this to be UFOs.
I think a lot of people do. Yeah.
I really want it to be UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking to a former service member
Right.
the other day, actually before yesterday's show.
Right.
And the conversation that we had was that I think, and it made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the public and those who want this to be UFOs so badly
Right.
are missing a big point on this. If something invaded the United States, including military bases like these drones were,
Right.
and there was a threat,
Mm-hmm.
UFO, adversary, or whatever it may be, it would have brought in rules of engagement.
Okay.
The U.S. military was told to stand down.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to stand down for anything that isn't a threat. That if it's a threat, they're not going to stand down.
Yes, of course.
Okay. If this was an alien invasion and they were going into secret areas or private areas or we should call it restricted flight areas, it would have been something that they would have responded to.
Well, without question.
One way or another, there would have been some sort of response.
Yeah.
There was none shot down. And the other thing that he told me was this. We have to remember that a long time ago, Ben Rich from Lockheed Skunk Works in 1992 said that Lockheed at that time was around 50 years ahead of what the public is seeing. This person stated to me that we are now 50 to 100 years ahead of what we are seeing. Okay. And the drones that the government is using are all of different shapes and sizes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So let's get to the point of why were they there? We are never going to know, because if it was some sort of military operation, whether it was looking for missing nuclear parts, whether it was looking for adversaries, whether it was just running tests, because now we have the idea that Donald Trump wants to build a dome over the United States.
Yeah.
That's going to start on the East Coast because that's where Washington, D.C. is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So were they testing for that? Were they testing the radars of the military bases to see how they would react to drones?
Sure.
Considering drone warfare is now a big thing.
Right.
Thanks to Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah. Definitely.
Excuse me about that. But I want it to be UFOs.
For sure.
But the zero reaction from the military and playing this off is a little weird for me. Now, I'm not saying that people like George Knapp or Ross Coulthart, who have sources alleging that some of these are UFOs.
Yeah.
I hope they are.
Yeah, no kidding.
I really do. But I don't think it is because of the lack of reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And as a public, I think we forget that at times.
Sure.
Because we want to believe.
Yeah.
We've seen the iPhone videos of things that are strange. And, unfortunately, people with iPhones, they zoom in so closely that it blurs everything. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for everything.
No.
But I haven't seen anything that really would make me think this is alien.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I look at it too, or look at the footage and see what's going on out there, I also, you're right. Like I look at it and I think, okay, if there was something nasty going on, they would have been stopping it. But the testing part of it makes complete sense to me. Testing and the weird anomalous looks to them and the different shapes and the way they change and did all that sort of stuff. It didn't actually surprise me. It didn't shock me, I guess, because in my brain, the technology that the United States has and other countries may have in designing and building this stuff it doesn't surprise me that it was there, if that makes any sense at all. Watching them shift from orb likes to, to whatever they were doing, to look like Volkswagens, whatever the case may be. It didn't shock me. So it just added to that confirmation that, yeah, this seems to be more of a man-made thing.
And the thing is, the Black Ops programs that are being used today, they're not going to come out and tell us what these are.
No,
they can't. It's technology. And I'm going to hearken you back to an example here, or take you back. I just wanted to see if the word hearken would work there, and I don't think it did.
No.
Okay. But if we go back to, I believe it was 2011 when Osama bin Laden was killed. We had no idea that the United States had stealth helicopters.
No.
That they had rigged up helicopters, Black Hawk helicopters, that were in complete stealth mode, that were silent. Nobody had ever seen a silent helicopter before.
No.
And these were built specifically for the mission to take bin Laden out in Abbottabad, Pakistan, at his compound. The world got to see a glimpse of this because one of them had a failure and crashed inside the compound.
Yeah.
We would have never known those helicopters existed,
right,
if they didn't have to blow one up, and we would have seen the wreckage of it. We would have never known. Okay. Otherwise, they would have been flown back. Now, I've talked to people who knew about these helicopters, and they don't exist anymore. There weren't 2, there weren't 3, but there weren't 10.
Right.
I don't know how many there were, but I know there was less than 10 and more than 2. Okay. And when you look at those helicopters,
sure,
those helicopters were designed specifically for that mission, to take out and kill Osama bin Laden. We knew nothing of those helicopters' existence. Fast forward to today, we don't know what kind of drone technology is being tested at Area 51 or Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or anything like that. And like I said, I want it to be UFOs.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay. I want it to be the face of disclosure. But the want doesn't equal out, at least to me, the necessity of what it really is.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I'm having with this story. Because, like I said, Ross Coulthard and George Knapp's sources are saying that this is some sort of alien technology that we have no idea what they are.
Right.
My sources are telling me that this has nothing to do with aliens. It has everything to do with the secret projects the United States government and the weapons manufacturers and aircraft manufacturers are working on at secret bases.
Yeah.
The problem that you have is the people who have seen these craft, who have built these craft, can't come out and say it because they're not allowed to.
That's right.
And yeah, I would believe that the United States government has anti-gravitics.
Oh, yeah.
We've already got hypersonic power. We've got ramjets. We know that they didn't retire the SR-71 just because they were relying on satellites.
Right.
Michael Schratt has proven that there was an SR-72, there was an SR-74, a 75 that we believe is flying around. There was the Aurora project that was true as well.
Right.
So the question is, if they're hiding this, or if they're using these in a public space, what are they using it for?
Yeah.
Well, if it's a black project or a serious security operation, the government is going to play Chief Wiggum and say nothing to see here.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening. We just don't know what that operation is.
Exactly. And just food for thought. If it was to mask otherworldly beings or spacecraft or stuff like that, we're better to hide a grain of rice than in a bag of rice, right?
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo. And look, some people are not going to like what I say, and some people are not going to enjoy it. Some people are going to say, well, your sources are full of it. I've seen the drones. I'll go over that more when we return on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Yep. Counting 7 seconds in my head.
Yeah, right there. Oh. Never have sciatic problems. Sciatica sucks.
Yeah. I had an attack of it once, and I couldn't walk. So they had to take me into the hospital. And then they put me on one of those little mini stools. I had to lean over it while they injected into my spine. Yeah. That was the first and last time I had a serious bad bout of it. And you've been suffering with it for how long now?
Oh, it's been about a year.
Jesus.
Off and on.
Dude. Yeah.
Off and on for a year. You know, I find it funny because literally I felt great. Like my body felt great. Everything felt great.
Mm-hmm.
Literally until the day after I turned 40. I didn't wake up with any crooks and crannies or gosh darn it or whatever it may be, you know.
Yep.
Or, you know, or anything like that. I've fallen and I can't get up. But the minute, literally, and I still laugh about this. All right. The day after I turned 40, so 40 years old and one day.
Yeah.
I woke up in absolute stiffness. All of a sudden, my back was hurting.
Oh, yeah.
My elbows were hurting. My heels were hurting. And I'm like, come on.
What? The warranty just wear out? What the
Come
hell?
on, dude. I'm like, I purchased extended warranty on this,
That's
right? Right?
Damn.
And now that I'm like 51, I'll be 52 in a few months.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, what doesn't hurt?
I know.
Like to get a day where there is no pain. Like to this day, you know the elbow issue I'm having?
Yeah.
I don't even know what caused that. I slept wrong. And it's been a month now that my elbow has been killing me.
You sneezed or
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love it.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I know. So I've been drinking more water to kind of Mel WD-40 myself.
Right. Good idea.
Right. And I've been wearing my Alien Lube shirt thinking that will work. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. By the way, I had to book my physical. It's been 2 years since I had a physical. Yeah. Yeah. So she says, do you want the rectal exam to go along with that? I said, do I have to? She goes, how old are you? I said, 51.
Yeah.
She goes, you probably should. I said, because I have a really cool doctor. I said, well, can I expect Dr. Omer to give me a little bit of a tease or call me names? Right?
Uh-huh.
I said, because he ain't getting there without just, make me feel a little bit sexy.
He probably would, too. He's an all right guy.
Yeah. So
luck be a lady. Oh, sorry.
So my date, here's another funny one for you here quickly.
Uh-huh.
Get a phone call from a client today. My new boss answers the phone.
Right.
And this person is looking for my old boss.
Oh.
Doesn't know that he's now living in Mexico.
Yeah.
So instead of asking for Dave, this lady on the phone goes, "Is the podcast ghost guy around? I'd like to speak with him." I go to my boss and he tells me this and he's just staring at me, right? I'm like, "Who's that? How do you know that's me? Why would you assume that automatically it's me?"
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, come on. Right?
You're famous.
I'm like, I don't do the ghost tour anymore.
That's right.
Mayhem. I got actually little Timmy James's wife is working on my back. She's a massage therapist, but she got it under control there.
Yeah.
Big thank you to Jay, Search and Destroy, and Itzy Zaza for the absolutely great super chats tonight. I really appreciate the love. Thank you. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio I read the word nerve store. No ugly swag. Go check it out. Hi, beautiful Juliana. How are you? Here we go. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The UFO Report. Little Timmy James is coming at you. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Little Timmy James here
Yes,
for the
sir.
UFO Report. Do you like being called Little Timmy James?
Yeah, it's good. I don't mind it. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Would you like me to call you something different?
No, that's okay. Everybody knows me as that now. And that's how people greet me in the chat room. No, I'm cool. That's totally fine.
Have you ever had a nickname before?
I've had lots of different nicknames. Some I can't repeat.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, around here, you're Little Timmy James.
Yeah, apparently.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have a telethon for you, too. Right?
Oh, yeah, never mind. I'm not.
All right. So right before the break, we were talking about about the drones. Are they UFOs or are they not?
Right.
I want to believe, but here's the funny thing. I have 3 sources,
Right.
not just one, 3 different sources that have I've had personal conversations with. Now, the UFO world doesn't like sources, but I would much rather these guys keep talking to me than shutting off the taps for information. One gentleman is on the West Coast, one is on the East Coast, and one is in Canada.
Okay.
They all have, 2 of the 3 have military affiliation. One is an attorney who has been working with a couple of whistleblowers and advocating for them.
Cool.
Okay. The funny part about the attorney is that this person who reached out to me a couple of months ago, I've known them for a while, but they reached out to me a couple of months ago on this topic. You know, his clients claim that these are that there are some aliens in here. Or as they like to call them, that new term, UAPs. Yeah. It's amazing how UAPs can be drones, though.
Yeah.
Right? So the point that I'm getting at is this gentleman who's an attorney has a client who's a whistleblower who says this is publicly saying that, oh, this is aliens. We got some aliens happening here. But his other sources that he deals with on a governmental level are like, oh, this is all ours. This is all ours. And has shown that it is all ours. My Canadian source, who deals a lot with defense programs in the U.S., says, yeah, we already know what they are. We're not worried about it. It shouldn't even be a story. And of course, then there's West Coast guy,
Yes,
who says it's ours. But the one thing they all have in common is they're very knowledgeable, they're very trustworthy,
okay.
and they don't understand why this is an issue. Well, I could tell you why it's an issue.
Yeah.
We know it's an issue because the Biden administration, and I'm not getting political here, we're keeping it to UFOs.
Yeah.
The Biden administration did not comment on this. And if they did, they gave very, extremely vague answers.
Yeah.
They haven't allowed the people, their own citizens, to know. They haven't even allowed their governors and Congress people and senators to know. They haven't allowed the mayors to know.
That's right.
When you have a breakdown in communication like that, people are going to react differently, which is why we are still seeing answers with great vitriol and people coming out saying, we're not buying this. No. We're not buying your answer, Donald Trump and your press secretary, by saying that there's nothing to see here. Chief Wiggum has spoken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. That is the problem, is when you're not telling your people what it is, their minds are going to go and shoot for the stars. It doesn't matter whether it's a person who has interest in the UFO community, your local librarian, or your local congressperson.
Yeah.
The lack of communication is what has blown this out of proportion.
Absolutely.
You don't have to give up the mission, but you could say, to call up your congress people and say, you know what? We have a situation happening here. We can't describe it. No, it's not aliens. Yes, this is ours. Okay, let's quell the situation down.
Exactly.
It's real easy. If you put water on fire, the fire goes out.
Yep.
When you add more material to the fire, it burns more.
That's right. Leave it unattended and watch what happens. And you're leaving, and like you said, you're leaving that. When you don't give the information, you're leaving that speculation up to the people that are asking the questions, and they're going to come to all kinds of conclusions like we've seen, right? It's inevitable. I mean, and they shouldn't be surprised about the reaction. I mean, you know, the three people that sure, they may be in the know. They may have they obviously have information about what's going on out there and who's doing what, and, you know, within certain reason, I'm sure. But yeah, Jimmy John down the street there and his wife and their kids are in the backyard, and there's 20 things flying over their yard, and it's been happening. You can see, you're right. And you can see why people aren't thinking, or why people are trying to draw conclusions on their own, because nobody's giving them answers.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And look, once again, before we move on, because you do have other topics to get to, I want to reiterate, as the dude who created this show, I want it to be aliens.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I'm not doing my job to the audience by saying what my information is telling me. If my information is telling me that it isn't, my sources, the people I talk to, say it isn't, then I have to run with that, because I trust these people, and these people trust that I'm not going to give up their names, their locations, or their positions. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a trust factor. Okay.
Of course.
So that's kind of where I stand on that.
Yeah.
But I will say this to the critics out there that are complaining, whether you like Jake Barber or not, the whistleblower.
Yep. To
the people who, especially the IC community that is, out there bitching and moaning about the psionics, the CE5, the summoning of UFOs. That is real.
Yeah.
That is completely real. Just because I don't buy the egg video, doesn't mean the other stuff that they are doing with Skywatcher is something that isn't real.
You're 100%
And I
correct.
know that for a fact because I've done it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do I have proof? No, I do not.
Right.
I have proof to myself because I watched it happen.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're not just talking a little dot in the sky.
Right. Yeah.
I'm talking out of nowhere, a UFO
Mhm.
flying southeast to northwest, and then 20 minutes later, seeing that same colored UFO underneath a black triangle above my house with two other witnesses.
Yeah.
Then the UFO landing that I witnessed in 2014.
Gee.
Okay. That came in
Yeah.
because I was connected to it. As weird as that may sound, and I don't even buy it either. But
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I know it happened
Oh, of course.
because I saw it. Now, people, well, where's your proof? Where's your evidence?
Gosh.
My eyes and my trustworthy capability that I'm not going to mislead my audience.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I do believe the CE5 psionic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and trust me, this summer, dude, when it warms up, we're going to go do it.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you got for us next?
Well, thank you, because you led perfectly into that with Skywatcher. So for anybody that's not sure what's going on, I just thought I'd give a little blurb. They wrote a couple of things today, and they put it out there, and it kind of an introduction, because people are like, what's this Skywatcher thing? So Skywatcher basically is an elite team of aerial intelligence experts and scientists. And this is from their website and their quote. So we are privately funded and are not seeking any form of revenue or funding from the public. We hope this proves to be a valuable gift to the world as we usher in the new era. Skywatcher provides advanced aerial intelligence and protection systems, founded by former military and intelligence professionals. To help you understand the scale of what's happening here, we've had over 100 highly qualified present and former military and intelligence officials reach out to assist. We've also had 50 plus researchers and scientists get in contact. We're talking about a highly complex initiative that involves precise execution across multiple domains. We believe we were successful on our first attempt, and patience, everyone, more soon. So Skywatcher Part 1 was actually launched today, and I think it's like a half-hour video. You can catch it on YouTube or wherever their X it's out there. So it was out at 6 o'clock Eastern, so you can check it out. This marks the start of the journey. Before we share a few key points. Number one, we do not have definitive answers yet. Nothing we share is meant to be viewed as conclusive evidence. Number two, we will share the footage from our first outing, but obviously everyone will want more. We know this, and we are not posturing otherwise. Please be patient. Number three, the story is told by first-hand witnesses. Number four, we're not selling anything or telling you what to believe. We're simply sharing what happened. Number five, we're doing our best to push the collective movement forward in pursuit of answers. Please understand that. This is meant to mark the beginning, not the end. We believe a breakthrough is imminent, and it's imperative we figure this out. We have since upgraded our operation. We are actively running more tests and remain committed to using the scientific process to gather robust data and evidence. He even puts it out there. If you're interested in assisting, please reach out and contact them. So their website is www.skywatcher.ai. And I think Dave was talking about it on Monday night. You got to log in and give them an email and stuff like that. But yeah, very interesting, because I was kind of confused on what exactly their purpose and what they were doing. They kind of came out of nowhere for me anyway. So I thought, okay, since I'm confused a little bit about it, I thought I'd try to clarify it and share it with everybody else out there. So yeah, go have a look and see what you think if you'd like.
What amazes me about Skywatcher is, for what we've been able to research, is this company is only a couple months old.
Right?
And yet they seem to have major connections and money behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you go back and watch that first video from the Seoul conference,
Yeah.
I think we're seeing very clearly where the money is coming from.
Yeah.
Or the SALT conference, pardon me.
Sure. Yes, that's right.
The SALT conference.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, like I say, to me, they came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're in our face. And I was like, what the heck is with this group? Like, is this a big sham? I had no idea. So like I say, I decided to dig a little bit and maybe clear some of the mud out of the way. We didn't really have a lot of time to get used to them being here yet. They've already, like I say,
well, to me, it's kind of like a greater setup than Enigma Labs, a much more connected setup than Enigma Labs. And the fact that they aren't afraid to delve into a little bit of woo, which is the experiential side,
sure,
compared to Enigma Labs, that's all about the nuts and bolts, and we're going to keep everything a secret from you.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not even going to tell you who our investigators are. We're not going to tell you where your information goes.
Wow.
I'm very interested to see what they're doing, but I always have caution,
of course,
for these groups that are tied to government potential, potential government contracts. And I always want to make sure that our listeners take a step back and just breathe it out. Let's see how this plays out.
Sure.
Because this may not be the benefit. A lot of people were excited about Enigma Labs when it came out. And right off the bat, they were saying, well, we have 500,000 reports. Then it went down to 200,000. Then it went down to 120,000.
Yeah.
And it's less than that.
Yeah. No, it's you're right. And then I think that's what overwhelmed me a bit is like it just came out and it was like brand new and just larger than life for me. And it was like, what the heck is going on here? So yeah, we'll have to wait and see and be cautious about it and see if this is a big, shell game or if this is legit, and crossing our fingers it's legit for sure. So do you know what today is?
No, fill me in. We got 5 minutes.
15 years ago today that the Harbor Mill incident in Newfoundland happened up here in Canada, eh? So this happened, January 2010, and bit of a report, what have you. The unidentified flying objects spotted in January of 2010 off Newfoundland remain a mystery to the government despite extensive scrutiny, according to the Department of National Defense documents. The documents contain grainy images of a rocket with a long fiery tail soaring skyward. The reports ruled out missiles and model rockets, but don't suggest what the images might show. Military experts discredited the possibility of ballistic and cruise missiles, and Department of National Defense's Directorate of Scientific and Technological Intelligence assessed the images and reported the object is not a ballistic missile, not a cruise missile in boost phase, nor a cruise missile in flight phase. It is also not a licensed model rocket launcher. So January 2010 sighting happened on the south coast of Newfoundland near Harbor Mill. Several residents reported seeing the objects, including a woman who was able to photograph one of them. She reported it to the RCMP that she said had seen 3 missiles soaring over the ocean, and it looked as if they were coming out of the water. The DSTI says that in the documents that the only missiles that can be launched from a submarine are ballistic or cruise. But the country's top arms expert says the objects photographed don't fit the profile. There are no distinguishing features on the object to use for identification. The shape of the flame is atypical of a missile launch, and the length of the flame is greater than that of the rocket body. This eliminates the possibility that it is a cruise missile, jet engine exhaust, said DSTI. So undetected by NORAD, the documents also noted that this is that it is the responsibility of NORAD to provide aerospace warning and defense for North America, and that neither that agency nor Canada Command had any information on rockets. NORAD and Canada Command have no evidence of supporting sightings, reads the report. RCMP conducted an investigation, but according to the January 28th, 2010 report, the police did not have answers either. The RCMP will be calling the event an unexplained sighting. So on other lines leading into redacted portion, it said media reporting has linked the sightings to ... So it is not clear if any new information was uncovered about the UFO sighting since February 1st of 2010, as that date marked the closing time for the access to information request. The case still remains open and a mystery.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that story or that event is actually in the Sky Canada.
Oh,
files.
yeah.
That would be interesting to find out.
For sure. Because, yeah, like 15 years ago this month, actually. Yeah. And it was weird because I remember hearing about it, but I didn't pay very much attention to it. And then, yeah, they just kind of buried it, though. I know that CBC up here in Canada jumped on it for a couple of episodes, and I think they actually did a short book on it as well. So, but yeah, ballistic missiles. They thought it was France because they had a submarine in the area. I didn't know France had submarines, but yeah. And France said, no, we were out in the Atlantic and we tested missiles, but it wasn't until the beginning of February. It wasn't at the end of January when the sightings occurred. So it was like, holy mac. Very interesting.
I love it too, because I think it's one of those topics where the more mysterious it is, like this one,
yeah,
it just makes you feel like, yeah, that's the story I love,
Yeah, definitely. And it's still, the case is open. So, I mean, I don't know how diligently the Canadian government and whatever has been digging into it. I'm sure, yeah, it's kind of put on the back burner to some extent, but yeah. And they ran out of time for the Freedom of Information Act. I was like, oh, you guys, come.
Oh, I know. It is absolutely amazing. And, here's the thing.
Yeah.
With a lot of these reports that come in, there isn't a lot of evidence.
No.
There isn't.
No.
You have to take people's word.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people will actually get that video on their iPhone, which is usually crap anyways.
Yeah, true.
So you're taking eyewitness testimony on this. They're not going to have the ballistics. They're not going to have the radar detectors out. They're not going to have a microphone up to the alien's mouth saying, hey, what are you doing up here? What are you doing?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And if it's too good, everybody's going to say it's fake.
You got that right. Lord knows, let the trolls come out as the UFOs fly overland.
That's it.
Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking and sitting down every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar, God himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat room tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, and hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. Because together, my friends,
we're watching.
Leo the Night with Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to make us home. Yes, the Blue Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. The seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, you can join our club too. Good night, everybody. Very clear.
Okay.
See, while you were on,
Yeah.
Overlander came into the chat room.
Oh
And
no.
started going nut bar again.
Excellent.
He did this 2 years ago. When
Okay.
he was YJ Overlander.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he had a red Jeep too. We had a lot in common. He's from Prince George.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I have no issue
Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah.
I have no issue with him.
Just went a little left of
But
center.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Oh shit. I hit the wrong button. There we go. Where is it here? Start, finish. All right, let's go here. Where'd it go?
I don't know.
Where did that one go?
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh my God.
No.
Where'd it go? I didn't delete it.
No, it's probably just.
Where the hell did it go? Export?
Look at Filth giving her.
Scribble.
I don't know. Do
I
you?
don't think so.
Look, it's you guys sitting there rambling away.
Yeah, it's us guys.
Yeah.
It's gone.
No way.
Hold on. Is this it? Hold on. No, that ain't it.
That's what happens when you got aliens, Dave.
What did we lose?
The show.
Shut up.
We lost the show.
Okay, redo.
Oh, well, we're going to have to redo this.
Okay, hold on. I'll call the guest back. Right
No, it's not.
It's not there.
No, it wouldn't have deleted. He wouldn't have. He would have asked you, like, "Are
It
you
would've
sure?"
showed me on here.
Yeah.
Drafts and uploads.
Damn.
It's freaking gone.
Oh no.
It's freaking gone.
Damn.
This did this to me the other night too, and then all of a sudden, when I logged back in, it was there.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hope that that's happening.
Yeah. Frigonomics.
Frigonomics.
Yeah.
Zowie.
Shoot.
Gosh darn.
Josepha, it's on YouTube. Can you recover it from there?
It would take like an hour and a half to recover it, and I don't have time.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah.
Yeah. That would.
Damn.
That really sucks.
No shit.
Yeah.
Just saying it.
How did that happen?
No. Yeah.
Because I did not hit delete.
Software glitch.
Total software glitch. Drafts and uploads. Nothing there.
Weird, man.
Looks like you don't have any add audio file. Well, I did.
Yeah.
That is so weird. And the problem is, once you delete something on here, there is no recovery.
Oh, there's not like a trash can or anything.
No, they don't have a trash can.
What the?
Yeah.
2025 and that stuff doesn't exist. Unbelievable.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Just sending spaceships to Mars and the moon and everything like that. But nope.
I'll just cut up another show with better audio.
Yeah, damn.
Let's see what we could do. Anyways, what I was saying about our friend Overlander here.
Yes.
You don't get to insult our guests. I don't care if you believe them or not.
No.
And number two, these people in this chat room who are here every night, it's not a cult.
No.
Okay.
You can download your
Rob, the problem with that is I have to sleep because I have to get up at 7.
7. I'm up at 5.
Yeah. Well, you don't do this 5 days a week.
No, thank goodness. I mean, not thank goodness, but you know what I mean.
But the point that I'm getting at is you don't get to insult our audience.
No.
And you don't get to insult our guests. These
Absolutely
are people,
not.
whether you believe them or not, these are people who come in to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
We are an entertainment show about these topics.
Yeah.
Okay. There is no truth. Okay. There's zero truth out there because, Tim, your truth is different from the audience's truth.
Exactly.
Which is different than my truth.
That's right.
All right. There is no evidence, or pardon me, there is evidence, there is no proof.
That's right. Exactly.
And there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah.
So I love it when these people come in and think that they're going to insult us with cheap shots and aha, caught you moments.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're translating something in their miswired head that never happened or is never like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you give a platform to these people. Yeah. They're great storytellers.
Absolutely.
Ask me if I believe that. Nobody has ever asked me that.
I know, right?
Okay. Like that last troll. Remember the chat room? I was begging him to ask me what I believe.
Yes, that's
and he
right.
never did. All he wanted to do was be insulted.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, for sure. For sure. And that's just it. Like I say, we all have different ways of looking at stuff in here. And some people are super interested in what a guest has to say. And some people could not care less because it's not in their lane. It's not their interest. But you don't come in here and insult people that are I just don't understand it. Like, get a life. Get a freaking life. Like, just, we're all here and we enjoy talking with each other and we enjoy listening to each other's stories. And sometimes we have little debates that, but everybody's got the respect. And then you get, like you say, you get that one asshole, right?
Well, I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous because, like I said, you don't have to believe.
No.
That's not the part. But you know what you can do is just sit back and enjoy it.
Exactly.
Just sit back and enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with treating somebody like respect instead of trying to get insultive.
Yeah.
Mayhem, didn't you block him once, or was that no? It was somebody different. You know what? And to people like Overlander, if you're still listening while you're washing your teeth after you pull them out, okay. Here's the thing I want you to know. I used to care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Tim knows how stressed out I would get about this. I used to care. But I'm going to be honest with you, or any other troll.
Yep.
I have zero fucks to give anymore. Pardon my language. Okay. Okay. But I have zero fucks to give anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not, this is my channel, my rules. There is no democracy here.
Daveocracy.
Okay. And the people who come into our chat room are here because they want to have fun.
That's right.
They want to learn while enjoying the topics.
That's right. It's
okay.
So simple.
So if you can't come in here and you're going to get so mad, so angry because Robin says she communicates with Sasquatch. And they have cups of tea together, and you're going to get so worked up and mad about it that you're going to give yourself a freaking stroke. Okay? We don't need you.
Snap, I lose him.
Yeah, and I always love the cheap shot that they give. This is why your show doesn't grow, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Right. I have close to 200,000 listeners a night.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yes.
How many do you have on? Let's check. Hold on a second here.
Oh, does he have?
Overlander.
Oh,
BC.
no.
Let's see if we can check his. Oh, he's got 538 subscribers. Okay. Yeah, 538 subscribers.
Oh, good for him.
Good for you.
I mean, really, honestly, good for him.
But he's going to give me advice on how to grow a channel. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll try to bring
X.
Robbie B, if you want to, if you're bored. Yeah, I would appreciate that if you could send it to all of our stations, man.
Gotta love that, Robbie.
Just shoot me the message. You'd save my ass tonight.
If I may say, Dave,
You know, it's like, believe it or not, I've actually, and I'm going to just give an example here.
Mhm.
I've actually had comments, and Rob can attest to this, had comments on our YouTube channel about people bitching about Filth's cartoons.
Yeah.
How does
Oh,
that
nice.
even happen? How does that even happen?
I don't know.
Right?
No.
He's a great part of our entertainment. We're providing something different. He's drawing to the topic. It's not like, Bob Ross painting a bloody mountain for the 98th time. Right?
With a happy little tree.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, for sure.
it's amazing what will set people off. And he was so mad in the last couple days. Robin talks to Sasquatch and Arkeith. Let me tell you something about Arkeith Andrews.
He's awesome.
That guy has been picked on and bullied his entire life. And you're going to be man enough to bully him again online?
Yeah.
Because you don't believe his story. It's not, he doesn't have to show you proof.
No.
The burden of proof is not on him.
No.
It's your choice on whether or not you choose to believe what he says.
Yeah.
I don't believe everything Arkeith says.
No.
But you know what? Let me tell you something, Overlander, and other people who don't like Arkeith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He's one of our highest rated shows.
Yeah.
On terrestrial and on YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. There are things that Arkeith says where I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah,
right now?
exactly.
Okay. Like, did you eat too many onions? Okay. But you know what? That's his story.
Yeah.
That's his story.
And let me tell you, he's the same. What you see on the screen is what you see, or what you get. Obviously, you've had many, many, many more conversations than I have, but I've actually had the opportunity to sit and BS with him on FaceTime and stuff like that. And what a great guy to talk to. He is so much fun just to have a conversation with.
There's nothing harmful about him.
Not anything.
Not a mean bone in his body.
Not a chance.
And that is a man who gets picked on.
Yeah.
Almost every day of his life because he's different.
Yeah. He's
right?
different, but he's cool. I love Arkeith.
And do you know what our community means to him?
Oh, yeah.
But apparently that's not allowed under Overlander's rules. Because that's what we have to play by. Everything we do, we have to play by Overlander's rules here.
I didn't get the memo on that.
Yeah, apparently. So if I'm a little sticky about crap like that, it's because A, I don't like bullies. B, I don't like aha gotcha moments.
No.
Okay. And C, you don't get to insult my show or my audience in my room.
No, exactly.
If you want to take that on your own channel or whatever, go for it. I don't care, because you know what? Your 12 people who are going to watch that are going to be whatever. Don't care.
Yeah.
All right. 0 fucks to give. 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't like what we do here. You don't like who we bring on. You don't have to listen. Guess what?
No.
Even your iPad, your phone, or your television, wherever you're watching, has a volume button.
What?
It does.
Holy shit.
You can press up for louder and down for lower.
I was wondering what those were for.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So if we have somebody on here who you don't like, guess what? You can either not watch part of that show, or you can leave.
Yeah.
Or turn the volume down.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Arkeith Andrews comes on once a month, and people freak out. The critics freak out over one show a month for 2 hours. Jay, it wasn't the Deep State. That was called the Dave State that screwed that up. Tim watched it happen. Yeah. Thank you for the hat trick, though, buddy. Appreciate that. I mean, and it's like Robin. Okay, Robin comes on once a week.
Yeah.
There are things that she says that I'm like, I don't know if that's true.
Me too.
But
for sure.
That's her reality.
And that's cool.
We don't know. Okay. There are people out there, and we live in the wilderness, Tim and I. There are people out there who I go outside, the deer run away from me.
Yeah.
There are people in our area that are feeding apples to the deer because they'll eat, the deer trust them.
Yeah.
And they'll eat it right out of their hands.
For sure.
Okay. And, they won't kick or stomp the person or whatever.
No, thank God.
Okay. Who's to say?
Yeah.
Who's to say? You don't get, just because you don't believe, you don't get to make the rules about what everybody else should believe.
Yeah.
It's not the way it works.
And in all fairness, that's a shame that you get so angry. Like, I mean, that in all 100% sincerity, wow, it's just like that's a waste of energy. I feel bad for him. Like, what are you doing?
Well, it's Prince George, right?
Oh, mill smoke.
Yeah. A little bit too much mill smoke.
That's right. No offense to anybody in PG. I like PG, but still, just like anywhere, you've got a couple of
Yeah. Well, it is what it is.
It is.
Whose birthday is it? Whose birthday is it?
I don't know. I can't read it from here.
Who's Ron? Am I missing something here?
It's Rob's superintendent.
Who's Ron?
I'm
I'm sorry. It pisses me off.
Of course, and I
So-
understand.
So I just need to vent.
Absolutely.
And you know what? The best part about it is after this, when we turn this off the air,
Mhm.
It's going to be like, whatever.
I know.
Guess what? Tomorrow. In the studio's father-in-law. Cool. Happy birthday, Rono.
Rono.
So who's on tomorrow night? Let's take a peek here.
That is Var. Is it?
It's not Varla Ventura.
Oh,
Who did I? Oh God, who do I have filling in for Varla?
she couldn't make it.
No, Varla's got a hockey tournament for her son.
Oh, okay.
Who did I get to fill in?
Lee Strauss.
Maybe I forgot.
Oh, bum, bum, bum.
I swore I changed that. I'm having a major brain fart here right now.
That's okay. You'll remember.
I'll figure it out for tomorrow. Okay, I don't know who we're having on.
So I won't be posting a thumbnail on any of the social media tomorrow. Then.
Well, you'll post those. You'll post one to know that there is a show tomorrow night. We just don't know what
Absolutely.
the hell we're going to talk about. I thought I booked someone.
You probably did.
Hold on.
Oh, Dave.
Oh, this bugs me right now.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I am really irked right now because I swore I changed that. Hold on.
Jules says, call in show.
Maybe. I swear I booked that. I rechanged that. Now I gotta go back here. Oh. Okay, so that's what I asked there. So now we can scroll up. Now that I have the starting point.
Alien Carl. That's what.
Okay, that's for February. I totally forget. And hey, Filthy,
Yes.
just so you know, keep February 14th open for right now. I have that tentatively filled.
Cat fuzz. Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah, I'm going to type them in right now. It's tentative right now.
Oh, when you said February 14th and keep it free, I thought you and Filth might have, Valentine's Day and all.
When's Valentine's Day.
All right. Well, I'm going to be our audience's Valentine because I run a cult. So please worship me.
Cult of personality.
Yeah. Please worship me. Right? Oh,
Oh my God.
frigadig. Try not to swear as much.
What?
That's true.
Yeah, I get it.
I'll find a guest for tomorrow. I can't figure it out.
Or Keith Andrews.
Yeah, maybe I'll bring R. Keith and Robin on at the same time.
Perfect.
And that way they can
Perfect.
you can have Hi Bombshell Bomber, Flat Six.
Apparently,
Paramount.
February 14th, you have the average Chris.
I did put it in for February.
Yeah, for the 14th.
Yeah, I just put that in.
Oh.
I
So
just
we have a
typed-
guest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We got a good month in February coming up.
I haven't even looked
We got
at
the
it
first 2 weeks booked.
Haven't even looked at it yet.
You don't have access, do you? Of the calendar?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I know stuff, man.
Well, look at you.
I'm a behind the scenes
you.
ninja.
I'm a distraction.
Phil, you're a beautiful distraction.
That's right.
You're the kind of guy who the women yell out, distract me, distract me.
It's because of my
You know what that's
cats.
code for? Nothing. No.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So we're going to say goodnight to all of you. And big thank you tonight to J times 3, Major Lee, Itzy Zaza, and Search and Destroy for the great super chats. And Sweet Robbie G, we're logging out right now. Don't forget the Bellingham station on Dropbox. If you need anything, shoot me a text. I will be available. I'll see you all my cult members tomorrow night.
Oh, hell, Dave.
Yeah. And remember, people, thank you, Flat Six, for the cult dues. Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Oh, God, look at this. There it is. Uh-huh. I appreciate that.
You were behind. It was behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet Tony B. Oh, lovely Lavira. I'm trying to leave you. I barely stopped laughing at your sciatica dashing, Dave, because it usually happens to me normally walking in front of someone 25 years younger. Me too, Lavira. When I'm putting on my strut and then all of a sudden, damn sciatica acts up. My goodness.
Hit you in the giddy up.
Yep. I love Lavira. She's awesome. And Sweet Tony D with a British chat. Thanks, Sweets. Appreciate you. Kitty Cattywack, how you doing? Tonight's one of those nights I just don't want to go off the air, but I have to.
Yeah, no doubt.
I could go for a while. I got that energy. But some of us do have to sleep.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, one day.
We'll do a marathon session.
No, just one day. It's going to happen here soon. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Totally going to happen here. Dirty Filth, thank you.
Good night.
We're going to let Sweet Robbie G save my ass as per usual. And yeah, don't forget your robes for tomorrow night, people. They better be purple with green outlining. Make sure they have the Northern Lights colors in them. We'd appreciate it. And now we got to think of a T-shirt for that.
Oh, yeah.
SOR cult.
Well, yeah. Something along that line. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Mhm.
We'll figure it out. Good night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.